All right, sorry for those technical difficulties there. Welcome to the 2024 convention. We are going to kick things off with a guest speaker, LPNC's very own Eric Rowell. He is a strong advocate for thinking and acting locally. He's long opposed the corrupt practice of civil asset forfeiture in North Carolina. And he is a graduate of NC State University and is a licensed attorney. He's a native of North Carolina and he lives with his family in Huntersville, where he recently ran for office. But please give a warm welcome to Eric.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Can everyone in the back hear the microphone? There we go. All right. So I want to first go ahead and acknowledge we've had some technical difficulties here. So this is going to be a little bit drier than I planned. I think the lesson learned is next year to trust the IT guy, James, with the slides. And, so I'm not going to throw anyone else under the bus, but James is going to be the guy I'm going to slides for next year. So look, I want to start by thanking Dee for the invitation to speak this morning, and obviously to everyone here, the Libertarian Party of North Carolina, for giving me the opportunity to talk about such an important topic. Title of the topic, which you would see on the slideshow, is Leading Locally, Ending Asset Forfeiture in North Carolina. I'd also like to recognize fellow Libertarian, Mecklenburg Libertarians, Rob Yates, who did manage to make it this morning. Rob, good to see you. And then James Higgins for their encouragement. It's really been great getting to know all the Mecklenburg Libertarians over the past few years. I even got James to come out, wear one of my t-shirts and hand out campaign materials this fall for me, which was great. Yes. Thanks, Stephen. I don't know if that was a dig at me for not coming to hand out materials for you, Stephen, but yeah. Look, it's reassuring, even in the liberal stronghold of Mecklenburg, we've got folks like Stephen and Rob and James, and there are other advocates fighting for freedom and fighting against the status quo. So my goal today, I hope to inspire at least one person to head back to their hometowns with an action item on what to do to help end the abusive and corrupt practice of asset forfeiture here in North Carolina. And I will commit to being a resource for anyone in this room who needs assistance with doing that. In fact, what I'd like to do is if everybody, I don't really have a legal pad, but if everyone wants to send me an email, right, I'll give you my email right now. You can email me directly, or if you just want to write it down, or, catch me after my remarks, I'll be glad to connect with you. It's Eric W. Rowell, and it's at protonmail.com. So shoot me an email if this is something you're interested in, and I will connect with each and every one of you after this. I think also, now that I'm here and I know it's platform year and not bylaws year, I think a new goal, somebody needs to, on their own, sua sponte today, as they say, maybe look to amend the platform under the police section. We need to also add ending asset forfeiture, I think, to the platform. So that's another goal while I'm here today. A little bit about myself, since I don't think I'm exactly a household name in the liberty movement outside of Huntersville. So I'm a North Carolina native. I grew up in the Garner area, which is in Wake County. Pretty traditional upbringing, both parents raised in Garner as well. I have 3 younger sisters. Not quite a Boy Scout. I almost made it all the way through Weeblos. Played sports growing up and through high school. Spent many a Friday night in Garner sitting on a tailgate with a bunch of friends waiting for things to happen. And always been an avid reader. Pretty traditional. So graduated from NC State in 2003 with a BA in political science. Worked for a year after college, delivering produce in the mornings. Worked at a law firm in the afternoons as a clerk. Then I was accepted to the first class of the Charleston School of Law back in 2007, which just means that my GPA did not present me too many options when it came to law school. So I had to go to a brand new law school they started in Charleston. Since graduating law school, I've worked as a state prosecutor in South Carolina. I've defended individuals charged with felonies and misdemeanors while on the appointed list in Mecklenburg County. Spent 2 years doing insurance defense work at a small insurance defense firm in Charlotte. 5 years as an adjuster, handling mainly work comp claims, long tail pollution claims as well, with an insurance company. And then for the past 5 years now, I have worked as general counsel and now risk manager for a large pool management company with offices in multiple states. I've also, as Ryan referenced, I've also been a 2-time candidate for town board in Huntersville, unsuccessfully both times. And even though I didn't win, I've remained engaged locally, trying to help keep the focus on limiting government whenever possible. And as a candidate, I think one of the most important things, and I was just talking to Brad about this. I know we've got a few other candidates in here. Listen, even though we don't win, we can still push issues to the forefront that otherwise would not be discussed by the 2 major party candidates. So it's important to just, as obviously Ron Paul famously did during some of the televised debates that he was involved in, you're able to still challenge the major parties to push that Overton window in our direction. So always support your local candidates, your unaffiliated or libertarian candidates, whenever possible. I've always had, I think, what I would consider a fairly conservative outlook or mindset. So, of course, I registered as a Republican when I turned 18. I've always loved listening to talk radio, and I still do. I was a big fan of Rush Limbaugh, which, make fun of that all you want. But if it wasn't for Rush, I would never have been introduced probably to the great Walter Williams, who used to be a guest host for Rush on a number of occasions. And of course, I used to watch plenty of Fox News, but I was really never active in politics through college. And it was other than, being a regular voter. And it wasn't until law school that I really began to think for myself and push back against the index card of allowable opinion, as Tom Wood says. 2 anecdotes still stick with me from law school that I'm mainly sharing for anyone here in the room who may still be approaching that age, who may still be either in college or thinking about grad school. Do we have anyone here in the room today? Okay, good. So we got a few folks, right? It's good to, you get to a certain point, you get old enough, you read enough, and you finally get that confidence to speak up. It didn't happen to me in college, but it did happen in law school. So a family law professor, right? I remember this family law professor who tried to accuse George W. Bush, who was president at the time, of being opposed to gay marriage by signing into law the Defense of Marriage Act, or the DOMA Act, as it used to be known. When I thought it was pretty obvious that was something that had been signed into law in 1996 by President Clinton. And so I approached, this was 2007. We had the internet. Still wasn't, we couldn't whip it out on your phone like you could on your laptop. We still had the wireless adapters we had to plug in. But I took my computer up to the professor after class, respectfully pointed it out, and he was incredulous. Even after I showed him, on the computer, it's pretty obvious this wasn't George W. Bush, right? Another instance that always stuck with me in legislative advocacy is an elective taught by a former legislative aide to Democrat Senator John Breaux. And it's another anecdote involving Bill Clinton. But the professor made a claim about Clinton's popularity at that time by citing his being elected by an overwhelming majority of the vote in both elections. When I thought, again, it's pretty obvious to everyone who paid attention that Clinton was never elected with a majority. Thanks mainly, obviously, to Ross Perot. I think it was roughly 43% in 92, and he came close, like 49% in 96. And then, of course, by the time I started constitutional law, my 2L year, I was that guy. I was that annoying student who would keep everybody running long in class because I kept arguing with the professor all the time. So I was that guy. But if my professors could be so wrong about these simple things, and I thought, any adult, especially any law professor, would know, what else could the adults be wrong about? And then finally, probably a year, maybe 2 years after I graduated law school, I had my red pill moment, as the kids say these days. I was doing doc review, so I listened to a lot of podcasts, early versions. There weren't too many options back in 08, 09. But I was listening to a replay of the Rush Limbaugh show from the day before, maybe 2 days, and it was one that Walter Williams had filled in as a host, which he was always the best guest host, him and Mark Stein. But he shared a quote from Frederick Bastiat's The Law. And so I thought, okay, I didn't know anything about the law or who Bastiat was. So I said, well, let me look this up. So I was able to find an audio version. I think it was Jeff Riggenbach, maybe the Mises folks had put it on. So I found that, and the next day I downloaded it to listen doing doc review, which essentially consists of word search through terabytes of data from when banks get sued. Not exactly the most stimulating work. And I listened to that audio version of the law, and I've never looked at the world since, right? The same. It is that kind of red pill moment where you can't unsee what you've now seen, or unhear what you've heard. Every line that I listened to hit me like a ton of bricks, and I still remember literally like every 2 minutes I had to jump up. I had to call a buddy to share with him. I was so excited about what I was listening to, and that's what started me down the liberty rabbit hole, leading me here today. Just curious, by show of hands, who is familiar with Bastia? Right. Okay, good. I would expect that in this room. If you haven't, or if you're not familiar, right, that's fine. But and who has read the law? I'm assuming the same folks. Okay. If you have not read the law, very short, easily digestible. I would strongly encourage everyone to put that on their reading list after the convention. I still proudly wear my Bastia lapel pin that I got years ago. I actually started a chapter of the Bastia Society in Charlotte. I was able to bring a ton of great economic speakers like Dr. Munger and a lot of other folks here in the state to come speak. So I was able to help spread that liberty message for a few years in Charlotte. The idea was to try to connect the business world and the economic world together. So again, and Bastia is not as well known of a name as some of the others, let's say in the liberty movement, but he's been extremely influential, obviously on me, but even folks like Rothbard, who famously had his Circle Bastia group in New York, his close friends. So, and he was a heavy influence on, a lot of us have probably read Economics in One Lesson. Henry Hazlitt, it's basically an 1850 version of Economics in One Lesson. So strongly encourage everyone to go out and read the law or download it, listen to it if you haven't. So I share all this with this group in particular to simply say, be patient with those in your network, your circle of friends or family who may not be where we all are yet, who may still be stuck in the Republican good, Democrat bad, mindset of the likes of a Mark Levin or the Fox News of the world. Not everyone comes to the liberty movement at the same time. Some of us take a lot longer to get here. But libertarians are fighting a major uphill battle against multiple forces. Legacy corporate media, at least 12 years of public school indoctrination. And I say at least because if you, like me, and you go to law school, you get hit with another 3 years of indoctrination. You have things like the incorporation doctrine, right? You don't learn about anything except case law. You literally start out in con law learning case law. You don't learn about any of the conventions or founding conventions or anything. So you get hit with that for 3 years. You don't ever find out that the Bill of Rights was never intended to apply to the states. Those are the kind of things you just get hit with right off the bat. So I say at least 12 years. And then obviously just the general human tendency that we have to seek out pleasure and minimize pain. But if we're going to be successful in rolling back the state in areas like asset forfeiture, we're going to need all the help we can get. So be patient. So as far as local activism, right, what does it mean to lead locally? To me, it means spending time and energy focusing on attainable goals in your own backyard instead of spending time and energy trying to accomplish far more difficult or unattainable goals like changing policy at the federal level. Now, I know this is a presidential election year and there will be a presidential election debate tomorrow. I'm not trying to diminish the importance of having strong candidates at the federal level and for federal offices. But for the vast majority of us in this room, we can accomplish far more locally than we can in Raleigh or obviously DC. One person can make an extremely dramatic difference at the local level. And I think it's important to point out I'm not special. I'm really not unique. I have a unique perspective. I've got obviously a unique background, but so do all of you in this room. So you can be that person in your hometown or in your county or your locality. You can be the Eric Rowell in Huntersville, the guy when you send an email to the town board, they all roll their eyes. They're like, God, here's this guy again. You can be that person. It does not take a special, unique set of talents, right? We all have our own viewpoints, our own unique assets. So bring that to the local activism in your town. So a few examples of local activism that I've been involved with over, let's say, the past 15 years. I got out of law school. First job was in a small town in South Carolina, Sherall, South Carolina. You had roughly 5,000 people. I would write for the paper on occasion. I started going to board meetings. You'd be lucky if there were 5 people from the public that would ever show up. One of the board meetings I actually went to, I remember there was a plan announced that the town was going to buy a golf course. And I thought, well, that's absurd. That clearly the state should not be involved in running municipal golf courses. So me and one other person actually went and spoke out against this. And I still remember the looks on some of the board members' faces, because they were just they were not used to people actually speaking at all, much less against anything they had proposed. And just in part because of that, people started asking questions. The board actually reevaluated it, and they decided against doing it. The golf course was pretty soon after that purchased by a group of local investors. It's completely turned it around. It's a really, really great facility. Obviously, no cost to the taxpayers. That was a win. That was the kind of thing that got me thinking more about, thinking and acting locally. Is kind of my experience in Sherrall. So then I moved, got licensed in South Carolina, eventually moved back to North Carolina, got licensed up here. I moved to Charlotte after moving back to Raleigh for a short time, and eventually, started paying more attention to Charlotte as well. So I went to actually speak at a Charlotte City Council meeting. I lived in Charlotte roughly 2010 to 2013 before moving to Huntersville, because there was an issue about pedicabs, right? So I believe in 2012, the DNC came to Charlotte. So there were one or two pedicab operators that had essentially co-opted a few members of the transportation subcommittee for the Charlotte City Council to encourage them to institute anti-competitive type pedicab ordinances, right? To keep out what they called the gypsy, or I think the gypsy pedicab operators that would come in, swoop in from out of state to carry people around the city during the DNC. So there were two or three companies in particular that wanted to have that monopoly on driving people around in pedicabs during the DNC convention. So I went to Charlotte to speak out against it. I went to a subcommittee meeting. I was the only actual non-transportation related person in the room. And by just doing that, by getting involved, by working with my city council member, I was able to not completely repeal or prevent that from going forward, but I was able to get them to basically minimize the anti-competitive effect that they were proposing, right? To essentially not allow a monopoly on pedicab operations in Charlotte. After moving to Huntersville, first board meeting I went to, probably 2013, 14, I took copies of Bastiat's The Law, right? And I handed one out to every board member. None of them obviously probably read that. I think maybe a few of them may have gotten through the first few pages. But that got the attention of the board members, just literally taking copies of the law. And so ever since, I've been, kind of the government watchdog in Huntersville. I started, I used to write for the paper. I wrote for the paper for about a year and a half until I offended a local business owner with a Shop Small article I wrote, and they pulled their ad. So that's all it takes for local papers. They lose one advertiser. And famously, I got the email from the editor that said, "Hey, I'm all for free speech, but you can't write for us anymore." So I had to go to Facebook. I was never on Facebook. I'm not a big fan of social media. I know most of you probably aren't, but you got to go where the people are. So in 2017, I started a Facebook group, private Facebook group called Huntersville Politics, strictly and solely devoted to local issues and local politics. It's got 1,100 members now, which in a town the size of Huntersville is pretty good. So I've been able to keep a lot of those local issues, forefront in that group. Something simple, right? Easy. All of you in here can do it. Whatever your town, your county is, there's not already a website, a Facebook group devoted to local politics in your town. Be that person to start it. I was awarded the 2021 Sunshine Award from the NC Open Government Coalition for a lot of my efforts at trying to bring more transparency to Huntersville and for advocating for the town to follow open meeting laws and public records laws. So when I moved to Huntersville, I started asking for a lot of records. I started asking for a lot of information. The town manager at that time tried to oppose a lot of that, right, and tried to resist it. Most of the open meeting laws and public records law, this is not, you don't need a law degree to interpret these things. These are very straightforward. They're intended to be that way. So be that person to start asking for records in your town. And one of the things I was able to accomplish, I think, is to, let's say, train the town to understand what they can say no to and what they can't. And so I think since, let's say, 2015, 2016, it's become a lot easier for other members of the community to get records they're entitled to, and to not get told no just as the default position. So I actually helped push Huntersville to start streaming their board meetings live back in 2015. A new board came in, and that was one of the big things I advocated for. So if you potentially still live in a town or a county that's not streaming meetings, and you're still having to wait 2 to 3 weeks after a meeting to get minutes to find out what actually happened, it's another easy one, right? I mean, streaming these days is extremely inexpensive. So that's something you can push for. Some of my records requests actually earned me a no contact letter from an attorney on behalf of the Huntersville Fire Department, which at that time and still is, was a nonprofit that provided shared services to the town fire services, simply for asking for records related to their finances. Huntersville, I call it HFD Inc. because it is still technically a nonprofit, which they hate because they like to pretend they're a department of the town. They don't like people to know they're actually a separate nonprofit, because they send out fundraising letters once a year to everybody in town. So they receive, let's say, 98.5% of their finances from taxpayers, but they still claim to be exempt from public records law. So I got a cease and desist, which I'm still unclear if that's been lifted. I thankfully have not had my house catch on fire, but it's still unclear if I'm able to contact the fire department if my house catches on fire. So that's still a gray area. Also been able to help break a number of stories locally as a result of some of my activism over the year, cultivating a lot of resources, especially within the fire department or the police department. So for example, these are headlines that you would be seeing if we had a slideshow right now, which James will help me with next year. HPD officer discharged a weapon into a busy shopping center. Complete negligent discharge, right? Literally found where the bullet had ricocheted into the center of the shopping center, into a pergola. Found the glass, right? The hole in the glass from the second story where the bullet was discharged. That story was completely covered up. I had a source reach out to me. Thankfully, I was able to get the local news involved with that. And there was actually discipline that resulted from that. We had a former town board member that was getting $97,000 that I know about in no bid contracts. Literally as soon as he stepped off the board, was able to bring that to light and stop that practice. Last year, one of the most recent ones, we had an HPD officer that was writing speeding tickets. One of our cops that just sits on the side of the road with the radar. He had an expired radar certification, been expired for a good month or so. So these are things you have to, I think every 3 years, officers that are LiDAR or radar certified have to get recertified. So as a result of that, 20 to 25 tickets, I think, at last count, the MEC DA had to dismiss because we've got an officer out there running radar and using that as the justification to pull people over. And there's no telling what else, when they pull people over, as most everybody is aware, sometimes that can be a pretext, right? So there's no telling what else they were discovering or charging people with. And the problem with that, look, here, let's say there was a legitimate criminal, legitimate bad guy that just happened to get caught speeding. Maybe they found a cache of weapons of some kind. Well, the whole pretext of that, the root of that stop now gets tossed because the officer is running radar without a certification. Couldn't be bothered to go get his certification renewed. Again, that was something that got to me through a source, thankfully. There was no publicity of that until I brought it to local media and local reporters, and then got that obviously corrected. So, and then I think finally to bring it back around, right, bringing HPD's involvement, Huntersville Police Department's involvement with the asset forfeiture program to the attention of the town board over the past few years through just multiple posts online, multiple requests for records. Finally, last year, I was able to get the Huntersville Town Board to pull this item off of the consent agenda. So if you're not already paying attention to your town or your county's regular meetings, regular business agendas, make sure you start doing that. Usually where this comes up, asset forfeiture is going to be buried in what they call the consent agenda because this is not controversial, right? At least it's, to the people voting on this. The consent agenda is only appropriate for items that there's no questions about, meaning that if there is a single question from a single board member about an item, it is not appropriate for the consent agenda and should be pulled off because consent agenda items get voted on as a block, right? So there's 10 items on there. One of them frequently will be a reallocate or approve expenditure of $300,000 from asset forfeiture funds to be approved to the local police department, because that takes place outside of the traditional budget process. So it's got to be voted on. They bury it in consent. Well, I was able to at least make enough noise about this last year in April of 23. Town board members pulled it off of consent, which means the chief had to show up. Well, I think the major at that time had to show up and defend the practice and explain, where is this money going to? Let's talk about it. What are we spending it on? That was a win. That doesn't happen often. But then at least it forces local law enforcement to come up and acknowledge the practice exists, right? That's the first step. You bring awareness to it, but then you get them to defend it. And then once you start drilling into the details of a lot of this stuff, you realize the absurdity of it. And then it becomes a much more difficult thing for the chief or the major to get up there and defend it. Because the reality is, a lot of times the head of the law enforcement department doesn't even know what's going on in their own department, because you've got one or two other officers in the investigative division or the drug division that are really overseeing all of this asset forfeiture activity. All the chief cares about is the money comes rolling in. They don't want to know the details. They want to bury their head in the sand. No different than the politicians that are voting to approve this on the consent agenda. So what you do, you pull it off consent, which means it has to be voted for individually, right? So then you force politicians to take a stand by voting individually on these items. That's an easy thing you can do. Monitor your agendas, see if this item comes up. If it does, email your town board or your city, your city council, force them to ask questions about it. So it's not appropriate for consent. So again, so why am I here today, right? Let's talk about civil asset forfeiture specifically. So, this audience is probably more familiar with this practice than, your typical audience, along with the known problems and abuses that go along with civil asset forfeiture. But I do want to discuss a few basics for anyone not familiar. But a quick show of hands, and again, no shame if you're not familiar with it, right? I'm just curious, who here would say they have some working knowledge of asset forfeiture? Okay, right. It's about what I expected, but there are folks here who probably haven't heard of it before, or may not have a really high understanding of this. So we all have our individual areas of focus, I think, within the movement, whether it's monetary policy, licensing, war, foreign policy, drug legalization, et cetera. So I think for me, issues involving abuse by the police have been a focus because I do have a background as a prosecutor. I've seen police up close and personal, right? I've seen the state in action. I've dismissed cases as a prosecutor when I talk with people about, why are you here? And their response was, well, I got pulled over and I gave consent to search, because I didn't know I could say no. And then I go through and like, well, you knew there were drugs in your vehicle, right? You had them in your center console. What did you think was going to happen when you gave consent to the police? But people just don't know. So I've seen this kind of thing up close and personal. I'm no longer blinded by some notion of the benevolent state, right? So, and because of what I've seen in my personal experiences, I've gotten to the point where I'm not afraid to ask tough questions involving the police department, which a lot of people still are, especially if you're in a city or a county that's let's say dominated by a more traditional Republican type elected official, right? Or you have a number of elected officials that are, no offense to the boomers in here, but the BoomerCon type, Republican Fox News, thin blue line type elected official. They're not going to want to question their local law enforcement, right? So you've got to be that person willing to get them to ask questions. So civil asset forfeiture is just basically any situation involving law enforcement seizing money, vehicles, potentially even a residence. Your entire house could get seized, or other property from a rightful owner without requiring the owner to be convicted or even charged with a crime, right? That's completely contrary to, innocent until proven guilty notion that most of us are inculcated with since we're little. Again, this is where I would show a short video from the Institute for Justice. So just imagine that's going on right now in the background. But next year. So look, thankfully, the good news, a little bit of good news, we live in one of the few states in the country that has abolished civil asset forfeiture and only allows property or money to be forfeited after a criminal conviction. So North Carolina law requires a criminal conviction and also a connection to a drug offense, so before money or property can be seized and turned over. Not only has North Carolina taken steps to protect innocent individuals from being abused by this practice and requiring a conviction, and by allowing an innocent third party, like a spouse or a parent of a drug offender, to contest the forfeiture in court, the legislature has also essentially eliminated, let's call it the incentive problem, by requiring any proceeds from property seized or actual cash to go to the local school board in which the county or which the money or property was seized. So, right, obviously, police take money. Money does not go back to the police department, right? That's a pretty basic economic incentive problem type issue. A lot of people still don't really understand that. So the law enforcement agency involved does still have the option to retain the property for official use. This isn't typically done, obviously, with cash. You can't keep it for official use. It's most often a property situation. So some of you, Brad, or some of the folks in the Wake County area may still remember this famously. The Wake County Sheriff, about a decade ago, got a lot of criticism for driving around, at that time, basically a brand new Z06 Corvette, claiming that they were going to be using it for, drug education situations, right? It was basically just everybody in the force wanted to drive a super fast, nice Corvette, right? The brand new Z06 at that time. So I don't know. I couldn't find out if they still have it on the fleet, but they got a ton of criticism for that because the visual alone, right, just doesn't look good. And then obviously it wasn't really being used to educate kids, because kids are going to see that and say, wait a minute, you mean if I sell drugs, I get to drive around this super nice, fast car? Kind of had the perverse messaging. So they started using it as essentially as an interdiction vehicle. I couldn't tell if they still have it in the fleet though. So if North Carolina doesn't allow asset forfeiture, what am I here talking about today? So it's because of what's known as the equitable sharing loophole. So law enforcement agencies in North Carolina are still permitted to benefit from seizing money or property through the equitable sharing program. So, and obviously potentially from completely innocent individuals. So according to the Institute for Justice, which is the leading public interest law firm advocating and fighting for change on this issue, and the law firm that is defending innocent people all across the country when it comes to this issue, equitable sharing, yes, yeah, IJ does deserve a big round of applause. I mean, yeah. And I will say this for them. Look, anybody, if you're ever looking for, if you've got some, if you're looking to make a contribution to an organization and you don't know where to go, IJ is a great organization. They really do good work when it comes to this, and they're affecting change in multiple states across the country. So, and if you're not familiar with them, follow them on social media, check out their website. They frequently put out really, really great content highlighting the absolute insane abuses that take place across the country on this project, or on this issue. That's right. Yes, they employ a ton of lawyers, and they're actually always willing. Dan Albin, one of the litigators, right? He's extremely gracious with his time. He literally was on vacation last week. I email him. I get an out of office. It says he's out of the country. I think an hour later, I get an email back with an apology. It says, "Hey, sorry for the delay. I'm out of the country, but let me respond to your email." So they're extremely gracious with their time as well. But bottom line, equitable sharing allows state and local law enforcement agencies to partner with the federal government to seize and forfeit property under federal law and receive up to 80% of the proceeds, regardless of what state law says. So this happens in two ways. It's through adoption or via participation in federal law enforcement task forces, which in Huntersville is the primary way this happens, right? That we're involved with asset forfeiture. So according to the most recent information provided to me by Huntersville Police Department, we have 7 officers who are essentially on loan with the DOJ and Homeland Security task forces. That's where our asset forfeiture proceeds come from. We don't have a formal policy prohibiting adoption, but our chief, again, because we required him to come up and defend this in April and again in December, actually, of this year, he specifically has stated we don't get involved with adoption. And what do I mean by adoption? Again, imagine a nice slide here with a headline. For those of you who are not familiar, right, this is not a hypothetical, right? This is not just some kind of theoretical issue that sometimes us in this room can get carried away with. This is a real issue. So in Mooresville, I think back in 21, a gentleman by the name of Jermaine Sanders had almost $17,000 seized from him that he was keeping in his vehicle. essentially, ostensibly on the basis of possession, right? It was linked to literally what was referred to as seeds, right? A tiny, tiny amount of marijuana that police found in his vehicle that was sitting in a hotel parking lot. There was no claim ever to tie that money to any type of drugs or that he was a drug dealer. It was simply the seeds or the residue itself is what allowed them to seize that money. It was so tenuous, right? So problematic that he got a local attorney. That attorney got involved very quickly, demanded the money be returned, and then literally kind of the day before the hearing with the Superior Court in Iredell County, what happened was Mooresville PD called their friends at the federal agencies they worked with and said, hey, you guys need to take this, right? You need to adopt this, meaning that money is then turned over to the federal agency. It's out of Mooresville's hands at that point. Iredell County Superior Court judge demanded the money be returned. Never happened because it's not in their hands, right? I mean, literally threatened the county, the city, but at that point, they don't have any control over that. It's in the hands of the federal government. This is where our chief specifically was shamed about this, right? He tried to distance himself from this, say, we don't do this. Problem is there's still no policy specifically prohibiting this, at least in Huntersville, and there should be. So when money or other property is seized as part of a state or local investigation or prosecution, the forfeiture of those assets can be adopted, right, if there's a crime under federal law. Why the federal government even has, let's call them federal drug laws to begin with, that's an entirely separate topic. However, on a positive note, I think this is a great example, modern example of nullification, since an increasing number of states are simply ignoring these federal drug laws by legalizing or decriminalizing marijuana in their states. So there is, some positive, some light at the end of the tunnel there. Equitable sharing gives state and local agencies another avenue for forfeiting property and gaining a share of proceeds, one backed by the resources, almost infinite resources, of the federal government. More than that, though, the program enables law enforcement agencies to circumvent their own state's forfeiture laws in favor of forfeiting property under federal law. Thus, forfeiting property through equitable sharing may be especially appealing, for example, in states like North Carolina, where we offer property owners more protection, or we make forfeiture less lucrative than federal law does. So proponents argue equitable sharing, right? So the fans of this, which are typically going to be, your police lobbies and police agencies, they argue that the revenue it generates is essentially for federal, state, and local law enforcement to effectively collaborate, especially when it comes to combating the illegal drug trade, right? So this is just an outgrowth of the war on drugs. In theory, these forfeitures take the profit out of crime and provide state and local agencies with the resources they need to continually step up their crime-fighting activities. But according to the Institute for Justice, their research finds no evidence that this is actually true, right? There's no actual link between forfeiture and a reduction in crime. And results from a 2019 study indicate equitable sharing payments to state and local agencies did not actually translate into more crime solved or lower levels of drug use. They did correspond to fiscal stress, suggesting equitable sharing use increases when the economy turns sour and law enforcement budgets are likely to suffer cuts. And this is also true in New Mexico, where they have abolished civil asset forfeiture completely, but you haven't seen any actual reduction in crime rates compared to neighboring states. So part of the reason equitable sharing doesn't even equate to lower crime levels, often these cases don't even take place in the town involving the local officers. So literally just last week, I keep pushing on this, I was provided with details on 4 recent task force related seizures involving HPD. And our chief admitted none were in Huntersville. So, and now for context, right, I was going to show the table here. North Carolina law enforcement agencies reported almost $16 million of forfeiture funds in 2023. So let's see, for example, so you can scroll through this. Does anybody want to, shout out their city? Let's see if they're on the list. What's that? All right, Durham. So let's scroll down. Durham's right there on row 26, right? Durham reported $202,000 just in cash alone, and then they sold property of $127,000. So last year, $330,000 is what the Durham PD brought in, most likely through, equitable sharing. Money seized. Cash. Yes. Typically is involving property. Right. Usually vehicles, on occasion houses, but usually it's vehicles. So
keeping car. Oh, I'm sorry, Sean Hoff. Yeah. Is there also, would there also be sort of a missing column for value of property seized but kept and not sold?
Possibly. That's a great question for when you go back to Durham, Sean, to ask. This is from the DOJ itself, right? So everybody can go to the DOJ website and find this table and look at it. But I've already been given the 5-minute warning from D, so let me quickly move on. And oh, yeah, go ahead.
List down that way we can see the end of it.
Sure, sure. Yeah, D can go to the bottom there and zoom in if she needs to. So
You can have my platform committee time. I don't mind.
thank you, Sean. So listen, let me quickly go through this. Look, long story short, right? What are the problems here? So what if law enforcement goes after the bad guys by taking money and guns, property from drug dealers? If you're not a drug dealer, what do you have to worry about, right? If you're not guilty, you're not going to have to worry about getting your money or property seized. So my response is obviously tell that to the hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent victims of asset forfeiture across the country since the federal government ramped up its involvement in the early to mid 80s. And this is just the victims we know about, right? There are untold number of people who have never had their cases brought to light, just allowed this to just essentially abandon their claim to any money or property because they don't have the ability or the know-how to go after it. And we can also thank Joe Biden in part for this, since he was largely responsible for pushing through federal legislation in '84 that enabled this. So, again, tell that to Jermaine Sanders in Mooresville, or the child sex abuse victim in Mint Hill who now can't recover against her abuser because Mint Hill police seized all of his money, $69,000, and now she can't recover even though she's gotten a judgment in court against him. Tell this to Lyndon McClellan. He's a convenience store owner in Fairmont, North Carolina, who had all of his money seized. Or Jerry Johnson, who owns a small trucking business outside of Charlotte, defended by IJ, thankfully. Or any number of airport travelers in Charlotte or Raleigh who have been the victim of random stops by law enforcement for carrying perfectly legal amounts of cash. It is not illegal to carry cash, despite what law enforcement may tell you. So if you get stopped at the airport because you're carrying potentially illegal drugs or cash, right? They slip that in there. Cash is not illegal yet in this country, okay? But that is the latest way that they frequently interdict, right? They literally stop people at airports randomly. They target people. And there was a great report out of Atlanta recently that everyone should look at, where they literally tracked down, the reporter was great. He tracked down the plainclothes officers to question them about what they were doing. And of course, they all ran away. So this goes on. This is where a lot of Huntersville Police Department officers, they're sent to the airport, whether it was with a K-9 or what. This is the kind of stuff they're involved in. So your friendly TSA agent, when you put your bag through the x-ray machine and they see cash, they then tip off the plainclothes officers at the airport, hey, go get that person, go ask them questions. And then they'll typically wait until you're about to, you're at your gate, right? You're under pressure. You're just like, I don't want to miss my flight. Sure, whatever. I'll consent to this because, hey, you've done nothing wrong, right? You got enough cash. They're going to make it difficult for you. They're going to make you miss your flight, and they're going to pull you into a private secret room where they then question you about it, ultimately coerce you into saying, I've just got to go take my $1,200. Like it's perfectly legal. I have a legitimate basis for it. I don't have time to fight this right now. I'm scared about what's going to happen. Take my money. I'll sign a consent form to say I agree to it. All right. This is literally something that happens in this country. More people should know about it. Another problem, look, it goes without saying, this targets the poor and the powerless. Okay. The typical forfeiture this is not El Chapo. Okay. This is hardly the stuff of drug kingpins. In the 21 states that even provide data, the most currency forfeited in recent years was under $2,000. Okay. This is the kind of stuff we in North Carolina need more data about, the actual assets and the money seized. The proceeds flowing into police coffers also inflates their budgets, encourages completely wasteful spending, because many agencies literally cannot spend all of this money. And this is a report I was just able to get done. In part, I helped with WCNC, the NBC affiliate in Charlotte, reported on this. literally about the 18, I think, like $8 million that CMPD is sitting on. They can't spend it all. So in Huntersville, for example, since I've been tracking this, we've probably averaged between $350,000 to $500,000 sitting in our coffers at any point. Last year, they spent $15,000 on an electric golf cart, okay, which I'm still convinced is somebody's brother's cousin's golf cart dealership that they got this from. Okay, I haven't been able to prove that. And ostensibly, this was purchased to patrol crime on the greenways. To date, no criminals have been apprehended on the greenway. The golf cart's been trotted out, I think, twice for PR opportunities, from what I can tell. It literally sits in the back of a trailer because you actually have to tow the golf cart to the greenways to then deploy this, right? But this because they have this money, they have so much money, they literally have to spend it on frivolous things like that. 2 drones for $55,000 total. $55,000 for 2 drones. You can get those things on Amazon for pretty cheap. And this is along with other surveillance-related purchases like LPRs, license plate readers, all going to expand the surveillance capabilities of local police, which, of course, they then take all this data and share it with an untold number of federal agencies with no oversight of any kind. So lending local resources is also a form of double taxation on local taxpayers who also have to pay the salaries of these local officers. Unless the overtime is potentially reimbursed by seizure money, while also not helping to do their job of stopping crime locally. Huntersville still has an unsolved murder from 2014. Could we be devoting more resources locally instead of sending these 7 officers out to play federal agent, right? Just last week at the annual budget retreat, right, a week ago, of course, the chief comes in, he's asking for more officers, which government always does. He wants 5 more officers. We have 7 officers currently being deployed to participate in federal task force. Why not just bring those 7 officers in, have them actually patrol the streets of Huntersville, okay? So wrapping up here with some goals, right? So what can we actually do to end asset forfeiture in North Carolina? So again, there should be a slide here showing an email example of what I do in the email I sent out, but this is the template that I'll be willing to share with anybody who reaches out to me. So first, we can all start by raising awareness about this issue in our cities and towns. If our tax dollars are going to local law enforcement being used for federal tax forces, or even worse, if our cities and towns are engaged in adoption, okay? Check this report from DOJ. If your county and town or city is listed, I would suggest emailing your elected officials to encourage them to ask the questions that I've put together, 3 questions, essentially asking for more details about the basis and the origin of these forfeiture funds. I'd also suggest removing, like we talked about, any consent item agenda items related to forfeiture. Force your town and city elected officials to vote on this, okay? So the questions I asked briefly, basically ask where the funds are coming from, ask whether any of this money comes from individuals who've not been charged or convicted of a crime, which again happens. People literally have money seized and are never even charged with a crime. And then you need to ask whether any of this money comes from individuals who may have had their civil or constitutional rights violated in the process. Then you follow up with questions with records related to this information. You ask for any and all forms and documents providing how many officers are assigned to task force, right? Ask for the current balances for any equitable sharing or asset forfeiture monies being held in an account for your police. And then ask for any MOUs, any memorandums of understanding between your police department and any federal agency so you can confirm who you're currently partnering with. Keep following up with your local elected officials and your local police for more information and details. With enough focus on this individually in all of our individual towns and cities, certain elected officials will take notice. You can write letters of editor to the local paper. You can clearly post on social media. You can retweet, reshare IJ, other great resources. There are abuses out there that are just waiting to be uncovered. And some of you may know there's the FAIR Act, right, that is currently in Congress, is currently in a House subcommittee. Even if that FAIR Act passes the House this spring, which IJ thinks is very possible, it still may not pass the Senate. So we could still be a very long way off for reform at the federal level when it comes to equitable sharing. And I'm not aware of any efforts in Raleigh to reform involvement with the equitable sharing program, okay? So if you can ask enough questions, maybe you can convince your city or town to cancel any contracts with federal agencies and opt out of equitable sharing entirely. Again, they will still be able to participate and seize money and property under North Carolina law, They will not, but there'll be a lot tighter restrictions on that. The federal government has never had enough resources to enforce all of the laws they pass. Never. It has always had to rely on local resources for enforcement of most of their laws. Plenty of examples that most of you are probably aware of. Fugitive Slave Act, right? The draft, local draft boards in World War I. An amazing book, if you haven't read it, by Bob Higgs, Crisis, drawing a blank on the full title, I'll get that to you. But Bob Higgs, Crisis and Consequences, maybe, talks about, thank you, Sean, Crisis and Leviathan, that talks about the draft boards in World War I and how the federal government has to rely on those local enforcers, or the draft, right? Fugitive Slave Act, lockdowns during COVID, obviously the war on drugs, and none of this would be possible without participation and use of local resources. So if we can significantly reduce or completely end law enforcement in North Carolina's involvement in equitable sharing, we can ultimately work to reduce the size and role of the federal government. Without local law enforcement's participation, the war on drugs becomes almost impossible to prosecute. And we can help to make our own community safer by keeping police focused on crime reduction in their jurisdictions only. And again, accepting for the sake of these remarks that privatizing the police is not happening anytime soon. I want to acknowledge again some great resources, Institute for Justice, Dan Albin, the 10th Amendment Center, John Guzet with the John Locke Foundation locally, who's done a lot of good work at the state level, WCNC in Charlotte, and reporter Nate Morabito. Retweet him, follow him for what he's doing. Local attorney Maria Perry, who's defending Jermaine Sanders at the federal appellate level, who's doing great work. And anyone else working across the state, I want to thank you and acknowledge you for helping to bring this attention to this issue. Obviously, including the Libertarian Party of North Carolina for having me here today for these remarks. So please continue to retweet, reshare, talk about this issue. And I want to thank you again for having me today. I know I've gone over, so I wanted to allow time for question and answers, but I'll be glad to stick around. Everybody's got my email. If you want to discuss this further, just shoot me an email anytime, and we can talk about it later. Thank you.
Thank you again, Eric. I just right before we call to order, just a couple things. There are some note cards in the back. You can submit questions for the governor's debate later this afternoon. There are some bathrooms in the hallway if you need to. And while we're doing business, we're only going to count you for doing business if you're sort of stationary, so don't be trying to walk around the whole room while we're doing business. It just makes it hard to count. And I think, oh yeah, and when you speak, please say your name and your county. So Ryan Brown, Granville County. I'm here to, I move that, something like that. Let's see, I think that is all we have. Oh, and we will have 2 floating wireless microphones and 1 microphone at the front. Please try to speak into the microphone so that everyone can hear you and can hear clearly. All right, at let's see, 10:05 a.m. I'm going to call this convention to order. And Dee, would you like to give the secretary's report?
There are currently 63 delegates checked in, 0 alternates, and there's 1 member who is not a delegate or alternate currently. And the half threshold majority is going to be 32, 2/3 is 42, and 7/8 is 56. Also, there's a sheet back there by Barbara's box for people who want to go to the National Convention. If you'd like to be nominated for the National Convention as a delegate, please put your name on that sheet if it's not already there. Thank you.
Yes.
Kate Shawhan, Carteret County. I move that in accordance with the LPNC bylaws, Article 12, Section 5, that the convention designate any LPNC member present as a delegate.
All right. Is there a second for that motion? Second from Mac. All right. This is something we do every year, and there's usually always significant discussion on this, but I will ask if there's any significant discussion on this motion. All right, excellent. I'm going to ask if there's any objection to this motion to make all of the members present as delegates. Is there any objection to this motion? All righty then, without objection, all members who are present and meet the requirements as delegate are thereby a delegate. If you are the person, or if you're affected by this, we can get you a delegate ribbon badge at the back after that. All right.
Mac Browder, Mecklenburg County. I move that we adopt the agenda.
All right. Is there a second for this? Second from D. Yes. Is there any discussion on this? We were a little bit behind, but as long as no one calls order of the days, I'm sure we can catch up by noon. Does anyone object to adopting the agenda as given to you in your packet? Alrighty then, without objection, we are moving along with this agenda. Alrighty, it is now time for the state of the party address, and I will keep it much quicker than previous, and hopefully it'll be all good and we'll catch up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, fellow libertarians and distinguished guests, thank you for joining me today as we gather for the 2024 Libertarian Party Convention. It's an honor to stand before you and share the progress we've made over the past year and inform you of the state of the party. Let me express my gratitude to all of you who have donated this past year. I know it's an economic uncertain time right now, but your donations have been stable over the past year. And this term so far, we've had 119 unique donors as of yesterday, and the donations have totaled just over $23,000. This is keeping up on track with the $45,000 over the previous 2-year term. So thank you all for helping keep the LPNC strong. You know, as advocates of self-reliance and independence, we understand the importance of controlling our own data. You know, in alignment with this principle, we are actively working to host our own data at the LPNC. Over the past year, we've implemented an IT system where we are able to host our own data when it comes to files and when it comes to chat. And so we're no longer being held ransom for our data like Slack did to us. We have complete ownership of all of our messaging systems, and we're on the track to have complete control over all of our file systems. We've transitioned from Slack to Mattermost, and it provides us a nearly identical platform for communication while allowing us to control our data. We haven't had any censorship attempts yet, but if we were to move to Discord or some other hosted system, we would constantly be under threat of censorship. And by moving to hosting our own data, we're avoiding that. And in reflecting on our 2023 election cycle, we elected 2 libertarians to local office this year. We're hoping their service will showcase what happens when there's a local government that respects the rights of the individuals. You heard earlier when Eric was talking about what happens when a local government does not respect the citizens. So we're hoping those elected libertarians will inspire their local government to respect their rights. And as we move forward, these wins are hopefully going to motivate us to win some more elections locally. That's the goal of this party, to win elections and to provide maximum freedom, and the best way to do that's locally. Looking ahead to the 2024 election cycle, we're excited to announce the Libertarian Party is going to field close to 50 candidates. We might even get over 50 when local filing starts in July. And this has traditionally been carried by Wake County, and no discredit to Wake County because they've been doing well, but we've gotten the rest of the state active as well. So we are running more candidates outside of Wake County than we are in Wake County. And again, this is not a slight to Wake County. It's just showing the improvement of other people. Yes. So there are plenty of you who are candidates in here, and we appreciate the service that you're doing because I know it's tough and I know it's hard. And when you're running to actually win, it takes a lot of effort. So thank you. You know, in closing, let me express my appreciation for the dedication and hard work of the members, the volunteers, the supporters, the donors, everyone who helps us amplify our message on social media, all of you guys. You all do a great job, and you all make the people who work, you know, who might have an official title at this party, but we're really just people like you. But we all, you as volunteers make us feel like we're doing something good, and we appreciate that. So thank you. Together, we will continue to shape the future of North Carolina and will foster a society where individual freedoms flourish and the role of government is limited to safeguarding the freedoms that we are given. Thank you, and thank you all for the hard work you're doing. In this room, there are candidates, volunteers, donors, and supporters. And you are what keep the party running, and we greatly appreciate the work that you are doing. Alrighty, the next thing we have to do is reading of resolutions. So Phil Jacobson had a resolution. I'll let him come up here and say something on it.
Can you hear me? Yeah, very good. I don't know how many people can see what's up on the screen. I'm going to read it because I couldn't see it from the back room myself. Resolution of the 2024 State Convention of Libertarian Party of North Carolina. This is a proposed resolution. Whereas the LPNC bylaws state in Article 8, Advisory Senate, the Advisory Senate shall be an honorary council consisting of those executive committee members or other officers who have completed their terms of office, those who have completed a federal or statewide campaign as Libertarian nominees, or those who have been appointed senators by the party in convention, and who remain members of the party in good standing. Whereas Rob Yates, a member in good standing of LPNC, has, as LPNC Communications Director, performed many services for the party, to include, but not limited to, developing the communications division itself, reestablishing and publishing the state newsletter, soliciting, writing, and publishing many articles and issue papers, working to upgrade the content of the party website, and developing a series of podcasts for the party on a number of issues. Can we scroll up a bit? Oh, probably could have done this one. Be it resolved that Rob Yates is appointed by the delegates as a member of the LPNC Advisory Senate, submitted by myself, Brad Hessel, John Haw, and Angela Humphreys. You will be voting on this at the end of the convention, but it is required that we submit it this time.
Thank you. As he said, we'll be voting on this later, so we're just reading it in so that you can consider this over the next little bit. All right, and then the next order of business is the Platform Committee report. So Sean, if you want to come up and give a presentation on that.
Thanks so much. I'm Sean Haw from Durham County. It was my honor to serve as the chair of the Platform Committee. This year, I would like to thank my fellow Platform Committee members, Mac Browder, Phil Jacobson, Stephen Sumner, and also I'd like to thank Angela Humphreys, who gave us some input on at least one of these planks. It's always been my goal to chair either Platform or Bylaws Committee and come back and say, you know, we looked at everything and it's all good. We don't need to change a thing. You know, and we came pretty close this year. I'm proud that, you know, you may have a little bit of trouble finding this in the packet because it is one page, but look for one of the 2 pages in your packet that's blank on the other side. And there you'll find the Platform Committee report. So we have 3 planks, one being a revision and 2 being new plank proposals. So if everybody's pulled it up, the first one, and I have, oh, thank you. We have an amendment to the education plank. The current plank reads, the LPNC supports the separation of school and state. Where the state does fund education, that funding should be allocated to students, not systems. Parents should have full control over how their children are educated. The committee proposal is simply to remove the second sentence so that the plank would read, the LPNC supports the separation of school and state. Parents should have full control over how their children are educated. And our rationale was in the budget last year. They snuck in the opportunity scholarships, which more or less, in the view of the committee, addresses the issue of at least state funding being allocated to students and not systems. So we feel that that sentence is no longer perfectly relevant. And I understand you should have in front of you a proposal to amend. Well, I'm trying to go straight to that. I've made my presentation on the plank. Brad Hessel. See, oh, there you go. Brad, did you want to go ahead and introduce your proposed amendment? feel free to correct me on any of the procedural stuff.
So,
Yeah, I'm just swinging this here. There's a reason why Ryan's chair and I'm not. Yeah, yeah. Oh, do we have a vote first?
yes.
Oh, okay. We're supposed to vote on this first, so.
All right, so Rule 5 is how we're going to do all these amendments. Next year, I'm going to abolish Rule 5, but this year we have to rule with it. So, Sean has given his 2-minute present the views. If you look at this, the chair shall open consideration for, excuse me, wrong section. Here we go. So Sean has given his 2 minutes. And then recommendation, okay, so the chair will open recommendation for discussion and restricted amendment for a period of time. We'll have 20 minutes to consider this. During the discussion, a committee recommendation, any motion is amended in 2 ways. And then before the discussion of the amendment, an immediate vote is held on whether the motion to amend should be accepted for consideration. And then there's a time limit of 5 minutes. So, yep. So the chair shall open recommendation for discussion for a period of time. So we've opened it for a period of discussion. If there's a motion to amend, Brad, please use a microphone. David, can we disperse those? Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you to those who are being voluntold to help. Yes, you can go.
Brad Hessel, Wake County, and there is a handout that talks in some detail about the proposal, and I apologize. I tried to print out 80 of them, and I got here and I realized I only had 60, so I ran out about, the halfway through. So some of the folks in the back, there are some on some of the closer tables if you want to get if you want to get a copy of this. But basically, this proposal is being put forward by myself, Shannon Bray, Travis Grew, James Higgins, Mike Ross, Nick Taylor, and Dee Watson. And I also have to thank Angela Humphreys for contributed greatly to putting this together. And the suggestion, and I'm not going to go into detail about why we want to do this, but the suggestion essentially is instead of deleting that second sentence, we'd like to change it and improve it. And the text that we're proposing is where taxpayer dollars are allocated to education, the disposition of each student's share should be determined by that student's family. Do I explain why we want to do this?
Very briefly, but yes.
Briefly, we wish to do this because we feel that the committee was misguided in suggesting
Actually,
that
Brad,
the change was that the budget committee to the budget doesn't really affect backpack budgeting the way that it should be affected.
we'll do more argument on that later. But is there a second for that motion? All right, thank you, Mac. So now there is an up and down vote right now, majority, to whether we consider Brad's proposal or amendment. So all in favor of considering Brad's amendment to the proposal, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no? No. All right. So the ayes have it there. So now we will have 5 minutes of discussion on Brad's amendment. Do you have Brad's amendment on screen? Okay, that's
Hi, I'm Dee Watson, and I'm a lot shorter than Brad. I'm the political and policy director, and this proposal, if we don't adopt this, that would remove school choice from our platform. And a lot of our candidates have campaigned on school choice. And I think the committee, if you read their original rationale, had an understanding that school choice had been attained. That's not exactly true. Right now in North Carolina, if all the federal money does not follow the child. For a lot of people, for more than 60% of the population, not all of the state money is following the child. That's the way, for a lot of people, 90% of the monies not following the child, and none of the local monies following the child, and the facility fees not following the child. So we really don't have the backpack funding and the money following the child. I don't know why it came through like this, but for years we have campaigned on school choice, and a lot of us have, and that would remove this from the platform, and I don't think we should. And also, the government could always get rid of the opportunity scholarships, but we still believe that when money is allocated for a child, the money should follow the child. So that would be why I would encourage you to accept Brad's amendment. And this is actually better wording than the original, in my opinion, than the original plan. Thank you.
One over here. Mike Ross, Gaston County. Kind of in line with that. At the end of the day, we had a good step in the right direction. But I don't think by any means we've successfully broken the monopoly on education by the state. And to take that language out, that that's something that we support, I think is ultimately doing libertarian ideas a disservice. So I'm in favor of the amendment.
Okay, can you reach Phil in the back there? Well, we're at 2.5
Phil?
minutes, so. All right, do we have anyone else wishing to speak in favor or against the amendment? Yes. we
I'll
do.
speak in favor of it. My kids actually,
Who are you?
I'm Travis Grew, Wake County. My kids have been going to private school since we've been in North Carolina on the voucher system, on the Opportunity Scholarship Program, because we're able to use my ex-wife's salary income to qualify. So without this voucher system, call it what you want, my kids would not be able to afford to go to a really good private school. And they've been going to private school since day one. So removing this is foolish because we're not going to abolish the public education system overnight. But if we get rid of the voucher systems, that means a lot of people are stuck with public schooling, and it's just not a good option for a whole lot of people. So that is why I'm in favor of keeping this language in the platform and in the plank.
Yes, sir.
I'm Ed George from Wake County. I stand in favor of the modification to wording as proposed by Brad. I think that the clarity and specificity of the use of the funds is critical. While this was presented by Sean, effectively he said that implied that the dollars now follow the student. It's not that clear that that's the case. And I think that this additional clarity is critical for us to carry so we can use it as also as a campaign point in the upcoming election.
Thank you. So we're at 20 seconds left. Does anyone want to speak against this amendment?
I would like to actually. Thank you for relieving me of my duties here so I can do that. I'm Sean Hoff from Durham County. Number one, I think it's inaccurate to say that this takes school choice out of our platform. I think that's widely inaccurate because we're talking about the ultimate school choice here. Parents should have full control over how their children are educated. That's a very strong school choice statement. The assumption and what we've run into with the change in state law is that we're not saving any money. In fact, we're probably going to be spending even more money on education through these opportunity scholarships that we, and this is not a libertarian result. We're looking for getting government out of things so that people can take control of them themselves. And I am happy to stand by the platform committee's proposal because I want our platform to be radical, for us to talk about things that other people think, oh, you're just dreaming. Well, why else are we here except to radically change how the state does business? And with that, we've gone a little bit over time on this. So we move to a vote now on the amendment, correct?
Yep.
Go ahead.
All right, so now we're moving to just a simple majority vote on Brad's amendment. So all in favor, Brad? Yes, let's clarify what it is. Thank you. So, as Brad succinctly says at the end, the amendments committee amend the committee's proposal to reinsert an improved second sentence. So the second sentence improved would say, where taxpayer dollars are allocated to education, the disposition of each student's share should be determined by that student's family. So that would be the new second sentence of the blank. Is everyone clear on that? Excellent. All right. All in favor of this amendment to the proposal, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. I think the ayes have it there, since it's a simple 50% vote. Okay. So, yes. So, the current proposal in front of us would read, the LPNC supports the separation of school and state. Where taxpayer dollars are allocated to education, the disposition of each student's share should be determined by that student's family. Parents should have full control over how their children are educated. Okay, so now we have probably about 10 or 12 minutes left on the actual debate about that proposal. So, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor or against or amend that proposal that I just read? All right. The one good thing about Rule 5 is that when debate ceases, we can go to an immediate vote. So, let me just make sure I'm clear on my margins here. I believe this is a 2/3 vote to adopt this proposal into our platform. So, I'm going to call for a voice vote, and if it's obviously not 2/3, then I'll do a counted vote. All right, so all in favor of adopting the full amendment as I just read to our platform, say aye. Aye. All in favor, or all opposed, say no. All right, that was obviously 2/3. So, I'll explain how we'll do a counted vote if we come to a controversial vote. Alrighty, so moving on to our second proposal. There you go.
The second proposal is a new plank called Recording Law Enforcement, to be placed after the plank entitled The Police. And the language reads, police body camera records should be available upon request to any person who appears in the footage. Also, individuals enjoy an absolute right to record anything in any public space with photo, sound, video, or any other means, including but not limited to recording law enforcement. And the rationale for this is that many of us have been involved in several causes over the last couple of years, which would be greatly helped if these principles had been followed, most notably the situation with Joshua Rohr in Gastonia. New laws shielding law enforcement from public scrutiny, including taking away one's right to film the police, continue to be proposed and must be stopped. So we're in discussion now on this. For 5 minutes?
No, so there's not been an amendment, so we have 20 minutes of discussion.
Okay.
Need be up to.
Is there any discussion for or against this amendment? Well, now let's give an opportunity for anyone. I thought I saw a hand. Mr. Ross. Somebody could get a microphone to Mr. Ross back here. You raised your hand.
Then you can go to my. Yes.
Yes. I'm good for now. You can step up if I'm.
Mike Ross, Gaston County. I'd like to speak in favor of this because the reality is we, the taxpayers, pay for it, and we also have to pay when law enforcement messes up. And across this state, across this country, evidence of crimes, whether it's violating your Fourth Amendment rights, your First Amendment rights, are often caught. And it took about $30,000 because of our backwards body cam laws in this state to actually get that footage released for a homeless veteran who had his service dog tased by the cops. How many people can't afford to raise $30,000 just to get essentially a public record that we paid for? I think it's in line with libertarian principles. I think it's in line with some SCOTUS rulings as far as the right to record. And I think it's something that I think belongs on our platform. Thank you.
Anyone else for or against the proposal? Seeing that, oh, no, Mr. Umir. Let's go.
Ray Eubinger from Durham, North Carolina. I don't have an amendment drafted about this, and I suggest if someone wants me to change my vote from no to yes, that they get even more ahead of my thinking and writing than I am. But I'm not sure we want to say that everyone who's in the footage has a right to it, because I believe a certain 1% maybe of the voluminous rules about these might be justified in the case of ongoing investigation or children involved or a particularly contentious piece of other aspect of whatever situation there may be on the video. And if I may be given 1 second more to review the wording. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Any Mr. DiFiore?
Steve DiFiore, Mecklenburg County. I want to vote in favor of this, or I'm going to speak in support of it. To piggyback off of what Mike has said earlier, there's been a lot of activism for our candidates and political party at their county level to support this initiative. So the state law was changed a couple years ago to make it very, very hard for the public to find out what's on body cam footage. This is purely the state trying to protect itself and its agents from the public being able to see their misdeeds. This is firmly within the lines of current activism, what candidates are talking about, and our principles. And its place in our platform is appropriate. It tells people who are new to the party or looking to see what we're all about that this is one of the issues that we are focused on. Because we are already doing it, so it only makes sense that it be enshrined in our platform until such time that the state basically turns back this protectionist policy that they have. So it's one of the reasons why I'm in favor of this proposal, and while I will be voting in favor of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. We do not have to fill the time. We might set a record for fastest, but feel free to speak.
So I know I brought this up when they were drafting this, and it didn't make it in, but I really do think that this needs to be changed. The way it is currently worded is any person who appears in the footage. So a man raping a child has the right now, according to us, to get the video of him raping that child released publicly. Maybe this needs to be reworked.
Are you proposing an amendment, or are you just stating that there should be one?
I already informed the platform committee at the time, so.
You're welcome to bring us an amendment at any time.
Yeah. That's well taken. But we can't actually amend it unless there is an amendment. So,
if I may, yes, I appreciate, Ryan, you stepping up and doing this, because I want to go ahead and speak in favor of the proposal. We considered both what Ms. Watson and Mr. Umir suggested. They are welcome to do that. They are perfectly welcome to do that.
Can we speak to the mic just so everyone can hear everything if we have to say something?
But in any case, we heard this kind of feedback, and we decided against writing any language to address it because we don't really want to give the police any excuses to exempt themselves from it and really just not change anything at all. Currently, the standard is that if you want to get the body camera footage released like Joshua Rohr did, you have to spend up to $30,000 to go to court and convince the judge to get it. We believe that should be flipped so that if there's an ongoing investigation, if there's, for some godforsaken reason, not that I know of any examples of this whatsoever, but if there is child pornography or sexual abuse involved in this, then the police could go to the judge and say, we would actually like to not, turn this over because it's an active investigation or because, of the content on there. But I'll tell you right now, if we leave any opening for any exceptions to this whatsoever, the very first thing that would happen to it is the police would say, well, you have to redact anything that identifies any officers out of it for officer safety. So anyway, that's where I stand on that. Any other discussion for or against the proposal? Yes, I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, very good.
Idris Durr, Wake County, you needed an amendment?
Sorry. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Idris Durr, Wake County, you wanted the amendment. I would propose police body camera records should be available upon request to any person who appears in the footage, excluding individuals found guilty of the crime depicted. No.
All right. Is there a second to that amendment? Proposed amendment. All right. Then that motion to move to amend will fail due to lack of second.
So I just want to make it clear, the platform committee was aware of the rape caveat, and they still are proposing it like this. That's fine if you're okay with a rapist can show this, but do you guys really want this in our platform without that caveat?
If you will allow me, I'm supposed to be completely neutral, but if you'll allow me just 10 seconds. All other laws governing conduct on the internet and everything else will still not be affected by this platform. So we're not saying that people can post whatever they want online. There's still going to be other laws on the books. But yes, Barbara, go ahead.
Barbara Help from Granville County. I'm wondering why the stipulation, where's the stupid thing? I can't read it. I'm going to move to amend to remove the language, put a period after any person, and remove the who appears in the footage.
I'll second that. Okay. So Barbara Howe moved to put a period after any person and then strike the language who appears in the footage.
Correct.
All right. That motion was seconded by Mac. So now we will go to a straight up and down vote on whether to consider that amendment. So all in favor of considering Barbara's amendment, say aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, so we'll move to 5 minutes of discussion on that amendment.
Daniel Cavender, Davidson County. I am going to speak in favor of this amendment. I think that anybody who is a public servant, such as a police officer, if they're going to do any sort of recording, that certainly should be available to the public. It's practically a public record at that point. So anybody who's got any sort of vested interest in what's going on, they certainly should be able to have the transparency to be able to see exactly what happened. So that's all I got.
Yeah, Stephen, and then I'll go to you, Phil.
Stephen D. Fiore, Mecklenburg County. I'll echo what was just said. These are public records that should be open to the public. If you're a taxpayer and these people have their salaries paid by your funds that is expropriated by you without your say-so in it, then you have access to those records, or rather, you should have access to those records, as it is your right. So I am in favor of this amendment.
All right, Phil?
Phil Jacobson, Wake County. I'm not 100% clear about the amendment. Does it eliminate everything after that period,
Sorry.
or just the one sentence?
What I said would lead to confusion, but I meant only the last sentence. So I'll read it again, or I'll say it again. On the sentence, upon request to any person, period, and then strike the words who appear in the footage.
So
it o-
the remaining sentence is still there. Okay.
Correct. It strikes only those 5 words.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Yes, David Owen.
Of all the people to screw up the mic. So just to be clear, if anyone can request this, I think we're all viewing it from the police perspective. Having lived through my 20s, I would not want in many cases people to request that film, not because of the police embarrassment, but because of, who I was and things that maybe are just funny now. But, you're letting people request every police encounter. Not every police encounter means the police were the dumbass involved. So just keep that in mind. We all have young people in our lives. It's could backfire.
That is a very excellent argument against. Are there any other arguments for or against this? Yes.
We should probably just add it this way to begin with. Gavin Bell, Franklin County now. I agree with Barbara striking it to say just any person. The immediate thought that came to my mind when we first read this is, what if the only people in the video are the officer or officers and then the victim, who could be unconscious in the hospital, so not be able to request the footage? What about their lawyer? Is the lawyer not able to request the footage on behalf of the person? And also, to kind of speak to what David Olmer said, nowadays, all the young people have phones and can record each other doing stupid things. So I don't think this in particular would be, just to comment on that. So I'm in support of this Barbara's amendment.
All right, we have 2 minutes left in this restricted period. If there are people who want to speak for or against the proposed amendment. Yes, can you run, thank you.
Thomas Watercott, Gilbert County. I'm for this amendment because it allows the Fourth Estate, the press, to also get the footage when there's malfeasance or whatever without any hassle. Because we do, in spite of what we think about the current press, we still need the Fourth Estate to shine a light on what our government is doing, as well as us shining a light on it.
Thank you. All right, anybody else want to speak? Yes.
Scott Kastner, Durham County. Quick question. If we allow everyone to have access to this footage, how would that be in like the slanderous situations if there is no guilt on the party being filmed?
I couldn't answer that, but that is a good question. All right, we have 30 seconds left in this amendment period. Anyone else wish to speak for or against this proposed amendment? Yep, Travis, can you get over here?
Mike Davis, Alamance County. I was going to suggest maybe there's actually two separate sentences, one about the body cameras where there seems to be some debate, and the second one about being able to film, which I think there doesn't seem to be debate. I was going to suggest separating that into 2 separate resolutions to be voted on separate, so the second one isn't impacted.
Division. Yes, yes, Barbara. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Yes, as Barbara said, for those who didn't hear, the actual motion on the floor is to amend this. And so once we get out of this level, we can go back up to the top level, and then we can make that. Thank you, Mike, for the suggestion, though. But yes, thank you for the correction as well. All right, we have passed the 5 minutes of.
I have one real quick.
It better be quick.
I kind of want to speak not in favor of this because, I mean, if you're personal business is available to any person. It's just kind of, I don't know, it kind of violates your rights as well if they film you and then you end up on the internet without your consent and you didn't do anything wrong. You're exposed. I mean, that your job could be liable. You could look guilty, but you're not. For it to be available upon request to any person is a bad way to say it. I believe it should be any person after being proven guilty or innocent. You know, there should be some clarity there, but any person can just get your footage and expose your stuff to the world is kind of, I don't know. I just feel like it's a little bit of a violation. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Travis. If there's no objection, we'll go to Thomas Hill for just another 30 seconds here.
Thomas Hill, Cabarrus County, and if there's some emotion in my voice, it is from somebody that's very intimately involved in the Joshua Rohr case. That first piece of evidence in that body camera footage for it not to be released was the police attorney read one of my Facebook posts. And while I greatly respect the people that, you know, innocent people may have their footage released, you need to stand up for yourself and advocate for yourself, and I will advocate for you. But there'll be no change in this country until we hold oath breakers accountable. So I firmly, with all my heart, endorse this. I'm sorry, there's no perfect way we can word this, but we've got to hold the police accountable. That's the epidemic in this country. Gastonia, North Carolina is a prime example. And damn it, it's got to stop.
Thank you, Thomas.
So,
alrighty, we're at 8 minutes out of 5. So now we will have a simple majority vote on whether to adopt the proposal, which would strike the 5 words "who appears in the footage." So all in favor of deleting that language, say aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Alrighty, so now we are back at the top level. And we do not have a ton of time left to debate this, but we can go for a little bit more. But are there any other comments in favor or opposed to the amendment as printed on your paper minus those 5 words? Yes. So Mike, now would be the time if you wanted to. Travis, can you? Thank you.
Sorry, I got confused on the methodology there. So I now want to propose a amendment to split those 2 sentences into 2 separate resolutions.
Okay, so there is a motion to split the proposal into 2 separate proposals. It's just so we're clear here, the first proposal, the first platform plank would read, police body camera records should be available upon request to any person. New platform. Also individuals, correct? Sure. Okay. Yes, John Underwood.
John Underwood, Wake County. Is this proposal to make 2 separate
It's
planks?
correct. It's a proposal to split this into 2 separate planks.
2 separate planks, or just splitting the question?
It's to 2 separate planks, which is not covered under Rule 5, but I'm going to try and wing it as best as possible to maintain all orders and not violate anyone's rights. Okay, it was properly seconded, so we'll go to discussion, and it appears Brad has something to say.
I just have another question following up on what Brad Hessel, Wake County. So what would be the title of each of these planks?
Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, go on, Mike.
So I guess they both would be under the police.
Yes.
One would be body camera records, and then the second would be, I guess it would be recording in public, let's say.
Okay. So if you'll understand the motion to separate this into 2 planks, one being titled body camera records, and the second one being recording in public. Yes, Stratton, sorry.
So Stratton, Pender County, I just wanted to make that same clarification. Yeah, that we're splitting the first part and the second part of this new plank.
Yes.
So they are now separate. So
yeah,
requesting body cam footage is separate from being able to record in public. They're now two separate items.
Correct. There would be two separate items. And if you'll allow me a moment, it's not covered under Rule 5, but as long as there's no objection, what we'll do is if this motion passes with 50%, we'll have two separate planks, and then we can vote 2/3 on each of those planks to adopt it, which I think is pretty much respecting the process here. So is there any more argument in favor or against the motion to split?
I would argue against splitting it because it's kind of all related, and it should probably be under just one simple plank.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any other argument in favor or against splitting? Yeah, there's back here. Travis, can you get her mic?
Here you go.
Just wait for a mic.
Lillian Lobdell, Pender County. If the police are already recording us, and it's a public record, we should be able to access it. If we are involved with it, it is still a public record. But if some random person decides to record someone and it on their phone or something, I'm just saying we should be able to vote separately on these things since they are different problems and different things.
Cool, thank you.
So.
Alrighty. That is probably all the unique discussion on separating this motion. So we'll do a 50% majority vote to split the, yes. We possibly could have a motion to suspend the rules, but if nobody objects, we can just continue going on without a vote here, if that's fine with everybody. Excellent. I think, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think I got the laid out the roadmap, so I think we should be good as long as no one objects. So there's a motion to split the first sentence. Police body camera records should be available upon request to any person, entitle that body camera records. And then the second motion, or the second proposal to be considered just after that, would be also individuals enjoy a right to record anything in the public space with photo, sound, video, or other means, including but not limited to recording law enforcement, and that's going to be called recording in public. So all in favor of the motion to divide these two, say aye. All opposed say nay. Ooh, I think that was nay, but I'm going to have a counted vote on that one. All right, so now we're going to do the counted vote. So I'm going to ask all in favor to raise their hand, and then would you like to count people off, David? Wrong person. Okay, so Sean's going to count people off. You yell your number, and then you put your hand down.
Sarah.
So Steve was 12.
Steve is 13, 14. Then we got this side, okay. 15, 16. Yeah. Okay. 21. Okay. 26. 28.
29. Okay. So all opposed, raise your hand and yell loudly when you're called on.
First time I've ever done this, so I appreciate you all working with me. One.
So
Thank you for self-regulating.
18, 19.
20. We done counting? I had 29 in favor and 20 opposed. 22. I didn't hear 21. 22. Either way, the motion passes. We'll say 29 to 22. I didn't hear that. All right. So we now have two separate proposals. We are.
Point of order. That does not add up to 63.
Doesn't mean everyone voted.
Okay.
It's okay if we're below our number. It's really bad if we're above our number. We call that the Wake County 2023 special. Alrighty. We are way over. Yeah. Hey, yeah. All right. We are way over our time to actually debate any of these motions. So I think we're at sort of the end of discussion anyways. So we have our new proposal 2, which is merely body camera records. Police body camera records should be available upon request to any person. All right. So let's see. Time has expired. So the convention chair shall allow for a motion to extend time, but I think we're sort of there, 2/3. Failing such a time extension, a vote will be taken on whether to bring the recommendation as amended to a final vote. So now we have a majority vote on whether or not to bring this to a final vote. So all in favor of considering a final vote for this amendment as amended? Yes, Barbara. That's a good question. How about this? Yes, ma'am. I am flying by the seat of my pants. So Barbara was asking, are we bringing a motion to have both of these new platform planks to final consideration or just one? Yes. Don't press the button.
My understanding was based on the change made, that these would both be voted on individually. So they're now two platform proposals.
Yes.
So this is a move to go to the final vote, to vote first on body cam and then on public recording. So we
Yes.
covers both.
Correct. Yes, we removed the word also. Yes. And sorry about that. We will. All right. So final vote to consider both of these amendments. We'll vote on them separately, but we're going to consider both of these amendments. So all in favor of considering these new amendments, say aye. All opposed, nay. All right. Unopposed. There we go. So now we'll go to a final vote on whether to adopt as a platform plank body camera records, stating police body camera records should be available upon request to any person. This is a 2/3 vote. And so all in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. I think that's 2/3. We can do a counted vote if people would suggest. All right, so a counted vote. All in favor, raise your hand and yell loudly when pointed at.
1.
Please stop. Let's start at the front. 4, 5, 6.
7.
So 43 in favor. All opposed, raise your hand. It does have it, but we started counting, so let's finish counting.
1.
Nine. So the votes in favor of adopting that were 43-9, and so that is our new platform plank there. Again, we're past discussion, so we'll just go straight to the consideration of the final platform plank. So there's going to be another 2/3 vote. It's going to say individuals enjoy an absolute right to record anything in public, any public space with photo, sound, video, or other means, including but not limited to recording law enforcement. And that is going to be under the title of recording in public. So we are going to do a 2/3 vote here. So all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. That is clear 2/3. So we have adopted both of those now. Alrighty, so we are on to the third one. And you want to go to this one?
Those of you who were here 2 years ago will remember this one. We came really close last time, so we figured we'd just put it up there again. It's a new plank called secession to be placed after free association. The LPNC recognizes the right of peaceful political secession. This includes the right to secession by political entities, private groups, or individuals. Exercise of this right, like the exercise of all other rights, does not remove legal and moral obligations not to violate the rights of others. The rationale is that self-government is a root principle of libertarianism, which all people have the right to exercise. People also have the absolute right, freedom of association, which allows them to join or leave governments according to their own needs. Open for discussion, for or against, all right? Go right ahead.
Alrighty, so we are in discussion mode. Yeah, find a mic and I'll recognize you. Yes, Mac.
Mac Browder, Mecklenburg County. Falling over. Oh well. Secession is a principle that by and large we all believe in. I know there's a lot of people who are afraid to address it publicly and talk about it openly, but this is the only way we make any progress on issues like this, is to get people talking about them. And to get people talking about them, we need to use the word secession. It grabs people's attention. It makes people take notice, and it makes people talk about it. Even if 90% of people won't agree with us, won't take us seriously on it, we are playing at the edges right now. The only way we get progress is to get people talking about stuff, and this is how we do it.
Thank you, Mac. Yes, in the back. Did you have a comment or no?
Ed George, Wake County, back here in the back. I'm opposed to this proposal. While I support the principle implied in the rationale, I'm concerned there is no net value to including it here. We need to be more pragmatic about our message as a party. Too often, we're known only as the party that wants drugs legalized. It really bothers me. This proposed change risks making us the party that wants drugs legalized and the party that wants to secede. I think we should work toward a platform that focuses on more critical principles that are important today. Giving our detractors another topic to distract from what is truly important today is a bad idea. Thank you.
Yes, Bob. Don't press the button.
Bob Drock, New Hanover County. And I just probably echo what was said there, and referring to, Mac's recognition that, 95% of the people out there are going to not understand what we're trying to accomplish with this platform plank. And so I am sympathetic to, and actually in agreement. I think this is a principle that we all would like to see achieved. But I have to stand against it as a plank for some of the reasons that were already mentioned. We're trying to appeal to the plurality of voters who don't want to vote for R's and don't want to vote for D's. But those same voters don't like the senile guy in the White House. They don't like the crazy, stuff that's going on with either party. And what voters really want is a party that gives them a rational choice and a clear vision. And this particular plank would eat up a lot of the bandwidth that we want to use for delivering our message on smaller government, preserving personal freedoms, and some of the other items in our plank. So for that reason, I would suggest keeping it out of the party platform.
All right. We'll go to Stephen first because he's closest to the mic, and then we'll go back to you, Ray.
Steve DiFiore, Mecklenburg County. I want to speak against adding this to the platform, not because I'm in opposition to secession, but I think it's a little bit redundant on a principle standpoint. We already have the free association plank, and the next principle beyond that, of course, is association of freely associating groups. So really, it's kind of redundant. And I will say that on the local level, some of our candidates, at least in Mecklenburg County, have spoken about elements of political secession, as in neighborhoods leaving the polity of Charlotte as a city and forming their own city government for purposes of taxes and representation, things like that. And that tends to get a lot of good feedback from folks when we talk about those issues. But to talk about general secession, to put secession itself, that word, unfortunately has a lot of baggage, bad baggage in the South. And while that might play well to a lot of the parties and candidates who run in rural districts, it will be really hard for those of us who live in cities and in urban districts where there's one political viewpoint that just has the lion's share of the media and the cultural zeitgeist, and so you have to kind of fight off of that. So this kind of loaded language, I think, while it is principled, makes it harder for candidates who want to focus on other things, because opponents will always look at this platform plank and say, oh, look at that. But really, free association is already there. So on principle, we already have this, and we can choose, or at least our candidates can choose, to speak on this issue in the way that they think will best fit their campaign and their messaging. Thank you.
Yes, Ray.
Ray Eubinger from Durham, also against. I preface with I restrain personal offense with difficulty. I was really against this last time. I'm very disappointed to see it back completely unchanged. I feel like it's very much just been put back in our face. I think the inflammation behind the word is a point of it. I suspect that the proponents seek that discord, seek that disunity, seek that discomfort for us as a party, and I object to anyone wanting that in this room for the people in this room. I would like to claim that myself and Tom Bailey and the gentleman who paid the tax stamp for marijuana and sold marijuana and had a trial for it, Tom and I had tax protests where we stopped paying for our license fees because our votes weren't being counted, and we got arrested because our tags were out of order and things. We went through years of struggle in the courts. Did we see any of you there in the court supporting us? Did we see any of your dollars supporting secession that we were actually doing? When this goes on, do you care about it, or you just care about people wanting to be have another reason to put us down by pointing to one thing that we didn't really mean? And that's your whole point. And the state constitution speaks explicitly against suggestion with an extremely strong warning of force from the state. And you can say it's not the secession you meant because it's about violent secession of the state. I don't care. It's the word, and I'm really ticked off about this.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, let's try not to assume any motives of anyone proposing this platform thing. But I'll go to Eric, and then I'll go to Susan.
Eric Rowell, delegate from Mecklenburg. I want to echo Stephen's point as again, the local activist guy. One thing I would encourage people is to, especially in counties like Mecklenburg, where I am a very strong proponent of forming a new county, right? It's kind of another way to get around this, to echo the delegate who just spoke his point. This can be inflammatory. In North Mecklenburg, there's 100,000 people in North Mecklenburg. That's far more people than was ever needed to even be admitted to the Union as a territory, right? So we need a new county. It has not been formed. A new county hadn't been formed since 1917 or 11. I can't remember. It's been over 100 years since we formed a new county. Everybody just likes the nice round number of 100 counties. And so that's really something that I think, especially some of us in the larger counties, could be advocating for. And depending on the makeup of the county, it could be appealing to the makeup in Raleigh, right? I mean, if you've got let's call it a more conservative area, could be more voting representation to the Republicans in power, right? So that's one way we can still work to advocate for greater freedom of association, but in a more practical way that we've got a better chance of enacting or forming a new county than seceding from the Union. I would also, since the gentleman, the prior delegate did reference the state constitution, if you are all not aware, we are all required to, and we all owe allegiance to the United States because of our state constitution, Section 5. So Section 4 does prohibit secession, but we actually go one step further, and we actually all formally in this room right now owe allegiance to the U.S. because of Section 5 and our Article 1 of the state constitution. So I would be opposed to this plank.
Thank you. Susan.
Susan Hogarth, Wake County. I rise in favor of the secession plank. In contrast to what the previous delegate said, we are not the property of the state and we owe no allegiance to it. It's a fundamental right of individuals and groups of individuals to leave any polity and, if they should be crazy enough, form their own polity in replacement of it.
Thank you. And we have plenty of time left to debate, but make sure what you're saying is something that has not already been said if you were going to go on for a while about it. But yes. Sir.
David Spade from Davidson County. I want to speak in favor of it. Far too many cities are forcibly annexing territory next to them. There needs to be a way to stop this and them to de-annex themselves.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Eric Parker, Guilford County. I'm in opposition just strictly for the language used. I don't want to propose an amendment or anything. Just say if this doesn't pass in the future, maybe use a different term other than secession. I came up here to specifically reference de-annexation as an example, and then that guy handled it for me. So, but we still have the right to free association. De-annexation. We'll probably come back to this in a couple years with better language. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Phil.
This is a semantic problem. Some people don't like the word secession. Languages evolve, and this word needs to evolve with it. It is time to get rid of this prejudice, and you got to start somewhere. I'm in favor of this proposal because of that. We need to recognize that secession at the various levels, whether it's a county seceding from the state or a district seceding from the county, or whether it's Ukraine seceding from Russia or the certain part of Ukraine seceding from Ukraine. These are things that should be in the people's mind, and this word secession is obsolete the way it's being used. The current usage is obsolete. We need to help change the definition or the public perception. Thank you. Phil Jacobson, Wake County.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, we will prioritize that. Thank you. Excuse me. If you've already spoken in favor or against it, just wait until everyone else can have a comment on it. Thank you. Yes, that is true, but it does not go against parliamentary traditions to have other people speak before people start speaking again. But yes, go ahead.
Pam Adams, Durham County, Durham. Anyway, I just wanted to just bring up the Greater Idaho movement that's in the United States right now, just so that you know that there are people that are speaking about this. This is not some arcane thing that no one's going to understand. It is somewhat in the news. Lines are being redrawn, or people are actively seeking for them to be redrawn. So in that regard, I think that the secession taboo word is maybe not germane right now. I think it's something we should embrace.
Thank you.
Bill Needham, Davidson County, Wahlberg residents. I'm very proud of being a member of Wahlberg. I pay my taxes. I like our town hall. And I think if someone wants to succeed next door, I think that's crazy talk. I like my garbage picked up. I like the association with the schools. And I just think just someone just wanting to, I want my identity of my neighborhood. I think that succession, I don't know, what would a person, just an individual just want to succeed? He's got to take other members around him. It can't just be the individual can't succeed. from his community. He can't be so I really don't understand why somebody thinks that's so sacred that they want to put that on there as a succession. You got to live somewhere within your geographical boundaries. You can't just say, this area I want to succeed. And you got to convince all the other neighbors. It just makes you sound kind of crazy.
All right.
I'm just saying that.
Thank you.
You know, I see both sides of this, but I'm going to speak in favor of it just for this two reasons. Susan gave a very good reason, the number one reason. But I think a second reason, I just want to stimulate a little thought. When do we quit giving up? When do we quit losing the war on words? Nullification's a scary word to people. Hell, liberty's a scary word to people in this day. Personal responsibility's scary. I'm just bringing this up. I'm tired of having to change the words I use because it might offend somebody else. Now, I'm a candidate too, and I care. But, you know, people are suffering and dying. And, you know, if I wear it with a badge of honor, you know, because I know where I stand. So I'm sorry. I'm just tired of us having to give up. You know, I know it's give and take. I mean, you got to pick what hill to die on. But dang it, words should mean something. And I'm sorry. I just speak in favor of it.
Thank you, Thomas. Mike?
Mike Ross, Gaston County. So 2 years ago, I actually spoke in favor of it, but I think at this point, things have kind of changed. I'm a candidate now running for governor of this state. And ideologically, I think the idea of secession it's one of many tools that as libertarians we should embrace, right? Looking back to the Declaration of Independence, the 10th Amendment. And I don't have fear of the word. I just don't think that secession in and of itself is a sufficient plank to express those ideas and those principles to voters. I don't have anything worded, but nullification is a great tool. We have plenty of tools that we can use when it's appropriate, right? Ballantyne threatened Charlotte because they weren't being treated fairly. They didn't have to secede. Just the threat of it created change for their community. As of right now, as a candidate, I realize that if I walk into, you know, an all-black church and they hear the word secession, I'm more than comfortable having a conversation and rationalizing why this is a libertarian position. But if there's so many people across this state as a candidate, which I'm seeing in this different role now, in and of itself, I can't support it. If it was modified, I'm not afraid of the word. I'd like to see it with nullification and all of the many other tools. But you know, you walk into a place and people continue out, and then you don't get that 5-10 minutes to talk through why it's important, and they don't listen to the rest of your message either.
Thank you. We'll go to D. We have 4 minutes of discussion left, so we'll go ahead.
I'm going to speak against. The reason that I'm speaking against is partially because of the wording, but the concept isn't that I have a right to leave you. It's really free association, and I think presenting it as free association is just a better way to do it. The free association concept, when people talk to me about it, that's why I have believed in gay marriage forever, because people have a right to free association, to form and leave. And that right shouldn't be controlled by the government. And I just think that's a much clearer way to present it. And it's a much more consistent way to present it.
Thank you. Tom?
Tom Bailey from Guilford County. Tom Bailey from Guilford County. I would speak against this. Everybody's right. These are principles that we agree with. On the other hand, I don't know that I want to campaign on vote for me. I don't even want to be part of this country. One thing, when you're talking secession, you are also almost always talking war. And I got Republicans all over the place fomenting enough war that I'd just as soon not go there if I could avoid it. If you wanted to just say, we endorse the principles of the Declaration of Independence, which states the case for secession, but in it, you notice they got a list of what drove them to it. A decent respect for the opinions of mankind compel us to state the reasons for the separation. And just handing out a blank check I think also is not a good idea. I agree with the principle, but I don't think this is the time or the place to be doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 90 seconds left. If no one has spoken on this before and would like, yes, Brad, in front. If you find a microphone, Mike, and then if we have time, I'll get back. All right, Brad.
Just a couple of points. I think I'm the 9th or 10th candidate to speak on this subject, and all but one of them have said that we're going to vote against this plank. I support the principle of secession, of course, but I commit that whether or not this plank passes, in 2 years' time, I will work with whoever's interested to come up with what Diaz suggested, a free association. We have free association in there, but it's just a sentence. It's not really inclusive. To expand that plank to cover this situation, to cover swastikas on birthday cakes, to cover every possible thing that would relate to the principle of being able to associate or disassociate freely as an individual, as a group, as a polity, whatever, without this red flag secession that would take the air out of the room for your candidates. We're a political party. Our purpose is to elect candidates and to promote libertarian principles. If, I'm going to have to spend all my time defending us as not being racist because we're using this word that I don't think 95% of North Carolinians, but at least 33% of them probably consider that a racist trope. So it's not conducive. It's not helpful from a political point of view to do this. Thank you.
So we are at literally 20 minutes of debate time. We have a 20-minute limit, but if there's no objection, Ray, you can have 30 seconds to close it out since you're at the mic, but then that'll be our final.
I thank my opponents, Tom and Phil, for their principled defense of the idea of claiming ground in language battles. This one word is a very special exception. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we are at the end of our debate time. We've reached the full 20 minutes. So now we go to voting on the proposal. Or we 50% vote to have a final consideration of this, I believe. Is that correct? Yes, it is. I know that. I'm the chair. I say that with authority. Anyways, all right. So 50% vote to have the final consideration of this. So all in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Ooh. Let's do a quick raise of hands without counting off, but all in favor raise your hand. We're voting for the final consideration. So this is going to be a 50% vote to go to final consideration.
This is not a vote on the proposal.
Correct. This is a vote on the, yes. Okay. Just count, it's going to be close. Can you count them off, Sean? So all in favor of final consideration, raise your hand. So 47 in favor of final consideration. So all of those opposed, raise your hand. Okay. I 5, 6. Okay. Sorry, for some reason I thought that was closer than it was. It sounded closer. Okay. What? 47-6. We are now final consideration. So now we have a 2/3 vote on whether to adopt this platform proposal into our platform. So all in favor of adopting this platform plank, raise your hand. So what is that? Yeah, just count them off for the minutes. It's easier that way. David. 8. 12. 13. All right. Humor me and we'll count for all of those opposed. Raise your hand. It's just easier for the minutes if we count it out, guys. All right, 41. So that fails 13 to 41. Hey, to be fair, it was 63% last year. All right, so we have concluded our business for the morning. However, it is only 11:28, and it looks like someone wants to make a motion. D.
ID Watson make a motion to move the NOTA Special Committee report and to start discussing it now. The reason is NOTA Special Committee was created because the implementation of NOTA with electronic voting basically can't be handled with electronic voting. So we have proposed platform changes to NOTA, and if we discuss it now before we vote on delegates later, then we could use electronic voting very seamlessly.
Correct. So that is a motion to suspend the rules to move the NOTA, or to consider the NOTA committee right now. Is there a second to that? All righty. So Daniel Cavender, I believe, was supposed to present this. Yes, Eric.
Point of order.
Oh, sorry. Did I? Yes. Go ahead, Eric. Yes. So it is a Rule 9 change, and so it's rule of the convention rules. Of the convention rules. So yes. Yes, ma'am. And I'll actually read just here. These rules will need 2/3 of convention or voters at a regular convention. That's Rule 10. So that's how we amend those rules. Yes, Eric. Real quick.
Point of order. Eric Rowell, Mecklenburg County. Does not subsection 6 of Rule 5 still allow for additional considerations for a platform committee? Or am I reading that incorrectly?
So the NOTA Special Committee does not fall under Rule 5, and the reason is that Rule 5 only...
No, D, let me answer this. So yes, you're correct, actually. Sorry, that was my mistake. So if you run through Rule 4, that's how we have no minority proposal. Rule 5.5 is recommendations for a minority report. Rule 5.6, after all adjunct committee recommendations have been received initial consideration, any delegate may propose amendments. So, sorry, I was out of order. Eric, yeah, it is correct. You have, any member has up to 2 minutes to state and explain a proposal.
And just again, point of order, does that mean an amendment to the entire plank or to the platform? So I could submit an amendment to the platform?
So we will, yes, that is correct. And we'll do it in that same style as Rule 5.4, where we have 20 minutes of discussion. And
Okay,
then a minute.
then again, Eric Rowell, Mecklenburg County. I would be remiss if I did not try to take advantage of this while I was here to simply move to further amend the police section of the platform. And again, I know I'm allowed up to 2 minutes to state and explain. I think I've already taken like 45 to explain this. This would be about asset forfeiture. So my recommendation would be to amend the police section of the platform to state the LPNC calls on the North Carolina state government to close the equitable sharing loophole and prohibit local law enforcement in North Carolina from participating with any seizure that is not pursuant to state law.
Yeah, I can read it. Yes, Barbara. Eric Rowell, yes. Can you find a microphone if possible? Thank you.
Hold on 1 second, Barbara. Hold on. You got a mic here.
We do address asset forfeiture in the takings plank under
yes.
Whatever.
Of our platform, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's the police, government immunity, and then takings where we do address asset forfeiture. So that may be better served in that platform plank rather than under the police.
Okay. I'll accept that, Ms. Howell. Thank you. And so I will move to amend my amendment to include that language under the takings section. And again, the explanation, I mean, yes, I do see that now. Apologies for not reading through this thoroughly while I was sitting over here. I would want to just expand upon that language. So I still think it's important to essentially call on the state government to close the equitable sharing loophole instead of just saying we oppose civil asset forfeiture. So I would still move for that language.
Okay. Does the secretary have your language? So Eric Rowell, at the suggestion of the convention, would like to place his amendment under the takings clause of our platform and expand upon civil asset forfeiture there. And it's being typed out, so please wait patiently. Thank you. Okay, so I'll just explain this again. We'll have 2 minutes for Eric to explain this, and I think you kind of did that. You can have those 2 minutes back if not. And then we will open it up to 20 minutes of discussion and amendments if needed. So, Eric Rowell moved to amend the takings plank to include the language, the LPNC calls on the North Carolina state government to close the equitable sharing loophole and prohibit law enforcement in North Carolina from participating in any seizure that is not pursuant to state law. All right. Eric, are you good with your explanation earlier? You got 2 minutes if you need. I think.
Yes. Was anybody not clear when I spoke earlier?
It's an addition.
Well, yes, I'm sorry. It would be in addition. It would be amending the takings plank, adding this in addition to the current language.
I'm not recognizing that. All right. Yes, Mike. Can you find a mic? Can we find a mic? Can we have some runners? Where's Travis? He's fired. Oh, here you go. Right here. Thank you.
I was just going to suggest to D that to clarify, it's an addition, like after the word plank before the quote, to add something like that. Eric moved to amend the takings planks to add, and then the quote. So it's
Thank you,
clear.
Mike. Yes, sir. Nick Taylor. You good? Your mic running. Okay.
Instead of just adding it on, why don't we insert it as in place of including sharing and such forfeitures within the taking plank? My name's Thomas Warcott, Gilbert County.
Thank you, Thomas. So you are asking Eric if he would have change it just a little bit here. Where were you saying it? Sorry, I should have. So right after where it says civil asset forfeiture.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Yes, I think you all heard Barbara. Okay. So Eric, would you be acceptable with placing that there?
I'll leave it as stated previously just to simplify things. I think a simple addition would suffice.
Okay. Technically, we don't have amendments to amendments in our rules, so unless Eric accepts it, we'll have to go on. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my understanding is he could have accepted it as a friendly amendment
Correct.
and just adjusted. So I think rejecting that is correct.
Yes.
So thank you. We have it. I think we all agree with it. I think we should just move forward. And then if the platform committee 2 years from now wants to reword the taking section to better include it and wordsmith it better, I think it's well done. Just tack it on and go.
Thank you. So okay. Is there any other discussion in favor or against this addition to the takings platform plank? Cool. Discussion has died down. So we will go to a majority vote where we will consider this for a final vote. All right. What? Yeah, so we're doing this under the rules of 5.4. 6 loops back to 5.4. Yes, Barbara. Okay, I did. Yes, debate has ceased. Yes, exactly. So, excellent. Our Rule 5 expert. So, as she has pointed out.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. As she has pointed out, since debate has ceased, we can move to a final or vote for final adoption. So this is a 2/3 vote to adopt this amendment to our platform as written. Eric Rowell moves to amend the takings plank to add the LPNC calls on the North Carolina state government to close the equitable sharing loophole and prohibit local law enforcement in North Carolina from participating in any seizure that is not pursuant to state law. All in favor of that, raise your hand. All right, that is clearly 2/3. All opposed, raise your hand. All right, there you go. So it was unanimous. All righty, good job, guys. You're getting your steps in, David. All righty. So we have 20 minutes until our scheduled lunchtime, and I don't think anyone is going to move the agenda around. So I will entertain a motion to go to lunch early and recess until 1:30 p.m. All right. Anyone opposed to that? Good. You better not be. I will see you back at 1:30 for after lunch. Thank you, guys. Yes. 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 If you want to submit questions for governor debate, do it by 1 o'clock and put them in the box back there. All right. See you at 1:30. Thank you all. All right, everybody. 5 minutes late, but hopefully everyone's back from lunch. Hopefully everyone had a good lunch. We are going to come back into session now at 1:35. And Dee, if you would like to give the updated list of delegates that we have.
There are currently 66 delegates checked in. 33 is, well, so really 34 would be the threshold. 34 would be the threshold to for majority. 2/3 would be 44, and 7/8 is 58.
All right, thank you. So 33 or 34, 44, and 58 are our thresholds. All righty, the first order of business is the debate and voting on resolutions. So Phil made the resolution earlier. We are going to open that up if there is any debate or discussion on that resolution. Phil's resolution was to make Rob Yates a member of the. You can't hear? Can you turn it up? Feel free to yell at them if they're too loud. Zach, tell them they're too loud over there. So I have to speak into the microphone is the problem. Thank you. All righty. So the one motion we had was for Phil Jacobson's motion to make Rob Yates a member of the Advisory Senate. We're going to open that up for discussion for those in favor or opposed to the motion, or the resolution, excuse me.
I would like to speak against the motion. Does anyone here really think we need to inflate Rob's ego more? Like, really, do we need to heap more praise on him? That is not productive.
Thank you, Mac.
Mike Ross, Gaston. Rob, thank you for all you do for the party. Couldn't be deserved by, very well deserved.
I'm going to have to echo my colleague here, his point of view. Rob, you're making us look bad, so I'm going to have to say no to this.
All right, there's a call to vote there. So, as this is a resolution, it must be approved by 2/3 vote, following our Rule 6 resolution. I would ask all in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Thank you. Thank you, Rob, for your nay vote as well. That motion passes with a near majority, or near unanimously. So, all righty. The next order of business that we had was the elections. Yes, D.
So basically, the elections are going to use NOTA because we have to because of our bylaws. There is a NOTA committee that, because of the way our rules work, is technically supposed to go afterwards. But if we take the NOTA report now, we can use it during elections. The NOTA committee worked very hard to create rule changes that would make NOTA feasible with electronic voting. So if you would like NOTA to work feasibly with electronic voting, I really encourage everybody to vote to move the NOTA report now before we vote.
So D, you are moving to suspend the rules to immediately take up the NOTA committee portion of business.
Yes.
All right. Is there any objection to this? Yes, the agenda is now wrong, David, as printed. All right. We will go to the other business NOTA report. So Daniel Cavender was going to present this report. We will do, since that was an hour and 15 on the agenda, we'll do that now for an hour and 15 minutes, though hopefully it'll take much less time. You can come up here if you want.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
And I have a copy of it here, so don't take it.
Oh, great. So we'll wait to have the report up here on the screen.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to consider Rule 9 only, and it's following this report here. So, what was that? The total time is correct. It is lumped in for the entire business of other business for an hour 15. We can do all that now, I suppose, or we can just consider this for. Yes, I expect that this will both make electing officers easy and not take much time. But I'll just give the proposal for maybe like 2 minutes. Just do the first one, and then I'll do the rest of the.
You're going to do the second one?
Perfunctory business. Just give.
Okay. All right. Hold on. What you pointed to was proposal 2. Okay. All right. Great. That's fine. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daniel Cavender, Davidson County, and I was on the NOTA committee. And it was a pretty good time. Some of us were pro NOTA, some of us against, and I think we came up with a great solution. As many of you well know, we have gotten into. Oh, I'm sorry. As many of you well know, we've recently gotten into electronic voting, which is fantastic. 21st century, right? Only issue is and Mr. Underwood can attest to this, it's been kind of an issue trying to make NOTA go through each round of ranked choice voting. So we've gone and created a new solution here where we treat none of the above as a candidate, and I will read it as follows. So none of the above NOTA will be considered a candidate on the ballot. And so our rationale, as stated here, says the ranked choice voting, instant runoff, being our standard method for the election of officers in the LPNC. However, the method is to remove the candidate that has the fewest number of number one choices at each round. That's often NOTA, and there's no provision in the software to keep NOTA in the election for each round through the last round. So NOTA would be a candidate on every ballot. However, when you cast your ballots, let's see here. So NOTA will still be a candidate on every ballot. However, with RCV, there is only one ballot. Delegates casting ballots are now allowed to place NOTA on the ballot with other candidates, and their ballot is not invalidated. All of these changes are consistent with the nature of the RCV method. Pretty much, like I say, we're fixing it. We're trying to make it work with the software, and we would appreciate voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Okay. So don't go far. So that was the proposal 1. This is not from an adjunct committee, so we're not doing this Rule 5 style. So we're just going to treat this as a regular motion, which can be amended, debated, and then since it's a rule change, and it needs a 2/3 vote among convention members. So with that being explained, hopefully clearly, is there any discussion on this amendment to NOTA? Anyone in favor or against?
And just to clarify, if anybody has any if anybody has any questions, I know I might not have been the clearest in explaining this. I'm happy to answer any if anything was unclear.
Yes,
Point
sir.
of point of information, please. Thank you, sir. Ray Eubinger, Durham. Where is the complete current text of the item that is being proposed to be altered?
So in your convention packet, you should have a rule section of rules. It's Rule 9. It's also on the screen, apparently. Yes, where the strike through R is what is the language you would like to remove. Okay. Anybody else wish to discuss this? Alrighty. So we'll just go to a vote since there's no more discussion on this. All in favor of this rule change, raise your hand. Oh, hold up.
Wait a minute.
What? You're not ready to vote. Are you ready to debate?
I'm still studying. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll give just a minute here for everyone to finish reading this.
Say my
Yeah, go ahead.
Gavin Bell, Franklin County. Just point of information: does our current software we use list out the exhausted ballots? Because I know it's ranked choice voting. If you vote for one person and that's it, you don't rank anyone else. That vote then becomes exhausted. So maybe we could consider exhausted ballots as essentially NOTA as well. Of course, by the end, the person winning is going to have 51%, so it won't matter. But
I believe OPA Vote has a record of all the ballots on all the rounds that it was used in, or how it went through. Yes. Yes, it does.
Is this working or? Yeah, it does work. Just really close. All right.
Yes, go ahead.
I just had a question. What is the scope of this NOTA rule? Is it just for votes within the North Carolina Libertarian Party, or are we recommending this at when you talk about software, is it the software that the North Carolina Libertarian Party uses for votes?
Correct.
Or are you recommending this at a broader, it's just the scope is limited to votes here?
The scope,
Got it.
yeah, the scope is all internal to the party.
Now we're ready. Hold on.
So explain again exactly what it's fixing, because I'm not sure I understand the difference in the language that exists and the language that you're proposing.
So what it's fixing is we've been having difficulties with keeping NOTA on the ballot past the first round of voting with ranked choice voting. So what we would be doing with this proposal is treating NOTA like it's a candidate, okay? After the first round of voting, if NOTA was not among the top 2 candidates, it would not advance to the next round like other candidates that also would not be within the top 2.
I'll give an example using John and Brad if they're okay with that. So John and Brad are running for chair and there's always NOTA on the ballot. After the first round of voting, NOTA only has 1 vote and they have many more than 1 vote because they're excellent members of the LPNC and we both like them. At that point, NOTA is no longer considered and then the only 2 real people on the ballot are considered. That's what that does. Is that correct? Yes. Yes, Brad, would you like to find a microphone?
Point of information. Are paragraphs 1 and 4 explicitly to be left alone because I don't see them listed on the change sheet, only on the current sheet? Paragraphs 1 and 4
yes,
are to stand
correct
under the change. Thank you.
Just a point of information with respect to that particular example, it would only actually happen if John and I were tied, if one of us had a majority of votes in the first round. Well, right, but if one of us had a majority, there would be no second round.
Oh, yes.
Yes, bad example, but you got the point, hopefully. Can you find a microphone? David's coming towards you.
Bob Drock, New Hanover County. This is to accommodate ranked choice voting, and apparently that's the method that's used. Where in the rules does it say we use that method? Why is it that method? And can that be questioned?
Yeah, that's going to be me question. I think, let me see where it is. My list of papers here. I believe it is in our bylaws, but let me find the reference. 7.3, Rule 7.3. There you go. Oh, there you go. Elections for party officer shall be conducted using instant runoff ranked choice voting. Yes, sir. Good question. Alrighty. Any other clarifying questions or arguments in favor or against this? Alrighty. Don't see any hands. So we will now vote on whether we are actually adopting this rule change. This is a 2/3 vote, and I'm going to ask that all in favor raise their hand. Okay, put your hands down. All opposed, raise your hand. Alrighty, that is clearly 2/3, so that rule has been adopted. You want to go give a presentation a second?
Okay, that's fine. I'm going to close. Other side, but yeah. Okay. So the second proposal we have from the NOTA committee. This reads as follows. Attending delegates to the convention may vote none of the above, NOTA, for any person or for any position rather, on the executive committee or judicial committee. Should NOTA be selected for any party positions, that position shall be declared vacant, and none of the losing candidates for that position may be selected to fill the vacancy for that term of office. Our rationale behind it, NOTA has never won a party election, but if it ever does, the current method of dealing with the vacancy would be problematic in that the vacancy cannot be filled. This would leave the party, for example, with no chair, no secretary for 2 years, because that's how often we vote for them, which would be materially dysfunctional. What this practically means is if NOTA wins, on the unlikely chance that that happens, all right, that position would eventually get filled. However, none of the candidates that were on the ballot can be selected. This invalidates them completely. Are there any questions? Yep.
Question, how would they be filled then? Would it be an appointment by the other board members, or what is that process?
Yes, it would be like filling a regular vacancy. Just the executive committee would appoint them later. All right. Anybody want to argue in favor or against this amendment or ask any other clarifying questions? All righty. We will go to a final vote then on this rule. Just like the last one, it is a 2/3 vote. So we have to have 2/3 in favor to adopt this. So all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, thank you. All opposed, raise your hand. And again, a very clear 2/3. So that has concluded the report, and we can go on back to our other regular scheduled events. Thank you, Daniel, and the whole NOTA committee. So there you go. And just in case anyone's keeping track at home, that took 11 minutes of debate. So we still have an hour and 5 minutes left for other business after we conclude here, if needed. Alrighty, now conveniently, we are going on to elections. So the first election is going to be for LNC delegates. Dee, would you like to explain this?
Here.
Hey, okay, this is pretty straightforward. We have a lot of submitted names. I think it's 32. We have 26 spots. I should have put down alternates. We have 26 spots for the LNC convention for delegates. We then have 50 spots for alternates. So everybody's at least going to be an alternate, but we have more people. So we're going to have an election. I'm going to read off the names. All of these people have already submitted their name, but people can still submit from the floor, but we changed our bylaws last year so that we could do this seamlessly. So these are the people that have already submitted their names.
And just to clarify real quickly, this is done under our rules, Rule 7.4. So in case you're just wanting to read this, Rule 7.4.
Yes. So the names are Andrew Johnson, Angela Humphreys, Barbara Howe, Bob Durr, Bob Drake, Brad Hessel, Carol Carter, Daniel Cavender, Daniel Johnson, Dee Watson, Ed George, Eric Parker, Jay Stratton, I don't know how to say this, Lobdell? How do you say it?
Lobdell.
Lobdell, Jacob Stewart, John Underwood, Kate Shahan, Mac Browder, Michael Munger, Michael Oakes, Nick Taylor, Phil Jacobson, Rob Yates, Ryan Brown, Sarah Brady, Sean Acton, Stephen Sumner, Stephen Feldman, Stephen J. DiFiore, Susan Hogarth, Thomas Watercott, Travis Rittenauer, and William Wells. And two of them have asked, I will find, but two of them have actually asked to be alternates, and I don't know why I didn't copy.
So those are the current list of names. You can still submit your name from the floor. We'll do that. Should we do
Yes.
that now?
Yes.
Okay. If you would like to be on this list and are not on this list, please nominate yourself or allow someone else to nominate you, because we cannot add delegates to our slate after convention.
And I want to add that John Underwood and Phil Jacobson, I actually am going to discourage you from voting for them because they asked to be alternates.
And we have no way to elect alternates. So
It's John Underwood and Phil Jacobson are the people who asked to be alternates, unless they want to change their mind.
no. Okay.
I'd like to nominate myself, Mike Ross, Gaston County.
Thank you. A second is not required. No. We'll get to that in a second.
Nominating myself, please, Ray Eubinger from Durham.
All right. Thank you.
Sean Haw from Durham County. I would like to be an alternate.
So are you discouraging people from voting for
Yes,
you?
do not vote for me. Please do not vote for me until November. And November is very important that you vote for me.
Thank you, Sean. All right. Is there anyone else whose name is not on this list who would like to be a delegate from North Carolina? Yes, Dee.
If you think there's any hope of you going to National, which is Memorial Day weekend in DC, I encourage you to put your name on this list. After this vote, we cannot add to this list. There's nothing we can do to get you on this list once you've added. So if you're thinking about it, do what Sean did and say you'd like to be an alternate, please. Thank you.
Chris Humphreys, Craven County, but I want to be an alternate.
Ethan Ware, Chowan County. I'll nominate myself to be an alternate.
Thank you. Did you get
Point of order or information, I don't know. Ray Eubinger, Durham. Will there be any debate before the vote? Any discussion?
no, this is not. We don't need debate on this since we're just going to do elections, so we don't debate elections.
First Sessions, Johnson County. Put me down for an alternate, please.
Thank you. Anybody else? All righty. If I don't hear anything in the next 5 seconds, then I'm going to go ahead and close it. Yes, someone. So we have no way to elect primary versus alternate. We elect an entire slate. So microphone.
Oh, sorry. I think building off what he said, if the numbers are such that they would be guaranteed a delegate seat, maybe it would just be easier for those of us who, rather than remembering what everyone said, if we can just, or trying to see that, if we could just leave them off the ballot.
Can you, John Underwood might be able to have a parentheses prefers alternate, but no, we have to elect them all at one time. Yes, Brett.
However, we have 26 delegate spots and at least 50 alternate spots, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Just
what?
vote for them all. We're done.
Well,
So we have,
but some of them want to be delegates. The top 26 are going to be delegates, and anybody below that is going to be an alternate.
yes, and so
So if we inadvertently elect a person who prefers to be an alternate to an actual delegate spot, that removes somebody who wants to be a delegate.
that person will.
It does.
If we show up in DC with 24 primary delegates and 6 alternates, the top 2 ranking alternates will automatically be delegates. They'll automatically ascend into that position. So that is a limitation with our system, but that is also the reality. So. Are you ready?
Ethan, is it Ethan Mathis or Ethan Ware? Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes.
Question. I think what she's trying to say is by putting more than 26 names up there, someone here could, by accident, choose an alternate, and then that person may be chosen over someone who wants to be a for sure delegate. So,
yes.
Is there a way to just take those names off
No.
of the list? Okay.
Yes, that is a limitation. There's nothing we can do to change that, but that is the reality. Yes. I can't use it, please. I can't hear you. Can you get a microphone? David Ulmer, can you get a microphone to him? Thomas.
Thomas Warcott, Guilford County. Can we, on the voting, we're using the software to vote these, right?
Yes, this will be done using OpenVote.
Can we put an A next to their name to designate they want to be an alternate on the open voting?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so can we do that to solve that issue?
We can do that to help try to prevent the issue. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Brad.
Point of information. Is this working? If someone who wishes to be an alternate and has an A next to their name receives no votes in this election, does that disqualify them from being an alternate?
Everyone who wishes to be an alternate should at least vote for themselves. Yes. That is the best way to recommend that you get at least one vote. Okay, are we ready to vote? Yes.
Because of the way our bylaws work, there's going to be 26 notice on here. I encourage you to vote for 0 of them because they actually can displace delegates, and because of the way things work, we can't replace them, first of all. Second of all, if you are going to vote for NOTA, vote for NOTA 1. If you want 5 NOTAs, vote for NOTA 2. If you want us to have an empty delegation, not be represented at national, vote for 26 NOTAs. I would encourage you not to do that. But this is the way our bylaws work, so just keep that in mind and don't be shocked.
Okay, so we are not ready yet. We're getting there. But what I will say is you're going to get an email from OpaVote, right? From OpaVote, or is it from us? From OpaVote. You're going to get an email from OpaVote using the email that you used when you signed up. It'll be open for 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it is if we need. And then you're going to go out and fill out the ballot and hit submit. And then we'll wait and it'll automatically produce the results for us. Yes, if you don't get an email. Okay.
So just to review, because there's some people they just don't know. When you signed up for a convention, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, you provided an email address. That email address will get I mean, can somebody explain it in more detail for people in the back who haven't done this before? Explain the whole process again, please.
Yes. And I will just say it right now. If you do not have the correct email on file, please come forward and we'll work with you. But when you signed up for convention, you signed up with an email. We are going to put that in OPA-Vote. Then we're building the election right now. And then OPA-Vote will send you an email. It'll say, please vote in the 2024 Libertarian Party Convention election. You'll open that. You'll read the instructions in there. I can't remember what the exact interface is, but you'll either put a check mark or select the radio button next to the person's name you wish to vote for. And because you're electing up to 76 people, you select as many people as you would like. And then when you're done selecting all the people you'd like to vote for, you hit submit at the bottom. Is that clear? Cool. Yes.
Still want to do email.
Yes, that's fine. Yes, Ray would like to address the body here for just a moment during our lull.
Ray from Durham again, personal privilege, because it's going to sound like a campaign speech for this office. I'm going to go there, win or lose this, for a very particular reason. I'm going to ask to be nominated for president from the floor on a never before tried in American history campaign tactic, strategy for American president, to campaign only to 700 people in the country, the 345 Democrats and 345 Republicans, for the 345 electors who can vote any way they want. I propose to be a candidate who's going door to door to those elector candidates before they win or lose in November to either say yes to me outright in their heads or yes to considering me, regardless of what the outcome is, because they always hold control to caucus and no one's ever thought it through, but that's the actual rules if they wanted to. And it would be a gimmick that could get noticed, but it's very serious about an actual rule deep down in the gears to bypass the popular yelling past each other that's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's why I want it. Thanks for letting me say it.
Okay, I'd also like to make an announcement real quick, something I forgot to announce earlier. We do have our silent auction stuff out there still, so keep an eye out for that. And then just off the table there's some LPNC glassware and some other stuff that was designed and built for this convention. We are not handing those out, but there's probably just a small donation fee. So if you want to scan the QR code and pick up one of those, that would be awesome. Thank you. Dangerously close. Yes, ma'am.
Former personal privilege. Being former treasurer of this party, this is an appropriate time to tell everybody, please donate to the party. Please become a monthly pledger. It's easier for the party to budget if they know what their monthly income is, just like your own household. So I challenge each of you to do that. Every little bit helps.
Thank you, Barbara. And some of you morally hate PayPal for understandable reasons. We also allow donations via Stripe, or we could do other things as necessary. But so we have that alternative to PayPal as well. Both can be found on the website.
We are ready. You're about to receive it.
Are you ready? Okay. The email is going to have Wake. It's going to be OPA-Vote via, or Wake County via OPA-Vote, whatever it is. It's going to be done using the Wake County OPA-Vote system. No point in duplicating efforts here. But that's going to be, and you're going to send it out right now, right? Okay. Is there a time limit on there?
There is not.
Okay. Can
Hold on.
boop. False start.
I thought this was
Anyways, momentarily, we'll get that sent out.
That's right. You got to pay to vote.
You got to pay. You got to pay for everything here. Okay, the vote is live. If you, sometimes these take like 1 or 2 minutes to stagger and send out, but if you do not have an email after a minute or so, please come up front and we'll see if we can help. You good? Alrighty, you should be seeing the emails come through. One. All right, voting has been closed. And if you refresh your page, I believe you'll be able to see the votes there. Or maybe it's in your email. The results are there. I don't know where D went. James, can you yell at D to come back? All right, these are the actual results. So, lines 12 to 37 are the delegates, 36, excuse me. It appears we had a tie, and Thomas Watercott won a coin flip over Eric Parker as a delegate. And then at the end, keep scrolling, these Chris Sessions down here at 48 to Daniel Johnson and Eric Parker are the alternates. So we will have these results maybe clearer. You should be able to view them afterwards, but these are the results. And are there any questions there? I don't know. Yes, I will read down the list of delegates. D, would you like to scroll at the top? Mike Ross, Rob Yates, Ryan Brown, D. Watson, Angela Humphreys, Barbara Howe, Brad Hessel, Susan Hogarth, Mac Browder, Nick Taylor, Stephen Sumner, Daniel Cavender, Steve DeFiore, Bob Durr, Travis Rittenauer, Michael Munger, Sean Acton, Michael Oakes, Kate Shahan, Andrew Johnson, Bob Drack, William Wells, Sarah Brady, Stephen Feldman, and then Eric Parker. And then as alternates, scroll down, D. No, Ray and Eric tied, and Opa Vote did a coin flip, and Thomas Watercott. Eric is the first alternate, yes. You won the coin. You are the. Yes, you are right here. Elected as a delegate. All right, and then as alternates, sorry, my sheet's weird here. Eric Parker, Thomas Watercott. Nope, Daniel Johnson. Sorry, it's actually bowed here, and I really can't tell. It looks like it's the same. Daniel Johnson, Carl Carter, Ed George, Jacob Stewart, Stratton, Lobdell, Sean Haw, Phil Jacobson, John Underwood, Chris Humphreys, Chris Sessions. Those are all of the alternates. Yes, Sean. Yo, and Ethan Ware. There you go. Can you get a microphone?
Thank you. Sean Haw from Durham County. So am I understanding correctly that because a couple notice received more votes than Ethan Ware, then Ethan is not elected as an alternate?
I believe that would be the case.
Well, then I would like to move to suspend the rules to appoint Ethan Ware as an alternate to the National Convention.
Point of information.
Yes.
If a delegate fails to be around, if you have only fewer than 26 delegates available at the convention, do you not go in order to appoint alternates in terms of the number of votes they got?
That is a different question.
Well, my point is that if NODA let's say all these people were elected as alternates, but Noto didn't show up when called, wouldn't you defer to Ethan automatically?
We just went over. If no, that's what we just. So Noda won. So if you didn't beat Noda,
Got it. I got it. All
you
right.
can't be appointed.
Thank you for clarifying that.
It is a rule how we elect our delegates, and therefore can be suspended and can be changed on the fly.
Okay, so my motion is in order.
I believe
Very
it's in
good.
order.
Okay, and I have a point of information for our chair.
Yes.
As the delegation chair to the Reno Convention, can you recall any instance where someone who was an alternate basically didn't get a vote because we had more than our share of people at the table at once?
We always had a sufficient number and never more of voting alternates and primary delegates.
So I'm correct in recalling that, to my knowledge, we've never really had a situation where, I mean, basically, if you show up, you'll get a vote. You're on the floor.
If everyone shows up, no.
Right, but it hasn't happened.
That has not happened.
Okay.
Yes. I would still encourage everyone who's an alternate or primary to show up, and that way we have, don't put that there. That way we have the maximum number of potential votes. All right. He has moved to suspend. I believe I heard a second there. It's a 2/3 motion to suspend the rules. So the motion was to suspend the rules to name Ethan Ware as the last alternate above the other notas. So let's just do this. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed, raise your hand. Yes, that passes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. Alrighty, we are now on to the Judicial Committee elections. And so I will open up the floor for nominations to members for the Executive Committee, or for the Judicial Committee, excuse me.
I would like to nominate Ken Penkowski. He is not present, but I do have his permission
Yes.
to nominate him.
And I can verify that as he told us both at Wake. Nominations don't need a second.
I would like to nominate Phil Jacobson. He's an incredibly principled libertarian.
I would like to nominate David Spate again, like I did last year, especially now that we know that he is a registered libertarian.
I'm going to be greedy and nominate two people because they both did a great job on the JC and they've both been on it. So Stephen Sumner and Sarah Brady.
Thank you. So we have 5 slots on the Judicial Committee, and we have had 5 members nominated. Would anyone else like to nominate someone for the Judicial Committee? Do you have a question? I can answer your question. The Judicial Committee had one meeting last year and decided to adopt the previous year's rules and then did nothing else. And we like it when they don't do anything. Yes. Yes, we are staying in line and staying lazy on the Judicial Committee. Okay. Any more nominations for Judicial Committee? Excellent. So we have had 5 people nominated, and we have had 5 slots to do so. And following Rule 7.5, if there are as many or fewer candidates as allotted positions, the body may move directly to elect all by a counted vote as a body. The slate of candidates must receive a majority vote. So, all in favor of those?
Didn't you just say no was the candidate though? You just went through the rule. Just not, I don't really care. I'm just tripping you up on your own silliness.
A year ago, David Ulmer said, you're going to trip yourself up on NODA with all the changes you're making. NODA, I suppose, is always a candidate. So we have 6 candidates for 5 slots. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules to adopt by acclamation or by counted. Can you get a microphone, please? Yes.
I move to do that.
No, I'm going to recognize David, but can we make sure we're speaking to microphones?
David Spade, Davidson County. The last name is Speight.
Excellent. Thank you.
SP number 8.
Yes, Mac, you were going to make a motion.
I move to suspend the rules to elect all 5 of those by acclamation. Okay.
Is there a second for that? All right. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Thanks, David.
I mean, twice now, just to point out, I mean, twice now you've suspended the rules over the notice stuff we did to ourselves.
Correct.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It
It just proves how silly NOTA is.
Apologies for my comment. It was a cheap shot and I should be better. All right. So we are now moving to acclamation. Is there anyone opposed to this slate of judicial candidates? Excellent. These 5 members were elected as judicial committee members. Thank you. Okay. The next election we have is for presidential electors, as this is a presidential year and we get to nominate electors. The way it works in North Carolina is we get 1 elector per congressional district, 2 at-large, and 2 alternates. I don't know if anyone is interested in serving as a presidential elector. I know a couple people have said they would. We are also able to elect or choose electors after convention if we don't fill the slots. And we have to provide these to the Board of Elections by August. So what I think we'll do is open up nominations.
Point of information, are there restrictions on who can serve as an elector?
If you are an elected member, or if you are an elected official in North Carolina, you can't serve as an elector. Yes, Dee.
Point of information. Do you have to live in the congressional district that you're an elector for?
I don't know. Yes, you do. Yes. You must live in the district.
Points of information. You got to be 21. You can be a candidate on the ballot in another race. We do have to have is it 14 districts, 1 per district?
1 per district.
2 can come from anywhere in the state.
And
they've
two
all got to be
alternates.
21. They've all got to be registered voters. They don't have to be libertarians or unaffiliated. I hope they all are. And the 2 alternates can also be from anywhere in the state. And I think that's all the technicalities I wanted to add that hadn't been said yet.
Yes, that is true. There is a provision in our bylaws. If you look at bylaws,
one more, please.
Yes.
The adding of more afterwards, which is important, I think. I don't think we've ever done it all here before. Is that's always been a motion required and to be debated and passed from the floor, not in the rules as far as I know.
yes. So section 9.3 of our bylaws states that if the state convention does not elect a sufficient number of presidential elector nominees, the convention may delegate the authority to select additional nominees to the executive committee. So I will open it up for nominations, or if we do not have anyone who wants to serve right now, we can make a motion to have us decide later. These numbers are not due till August, and so we have plenty of time to find people. Yes, the floor is open for nominations. Do you know your congressional district? Stephen DeFiore for District 12. Daniel Cavender? Daniel Cavender for District 8. Can we find a microphone? Have a runner, please.
Speak really loud.
No, use the microphone.
Thomas Watercott. I would like myself for Congressional District 5.
Thank you.
David Spade, Davidson County. I'd like to nominate myself for at-large.
All right, thank you.
Sarah Brady, Johnson County. I'd like to nominate for District 13.
Robert Browder, I'd like to nominate myself for District 14.
Steve Feldman, I'd like to nominate myself for District 10.
Thank you. Just hold it for a second here. Steve Feldman.
Point of information, I can furnish the voter website where you can find your CD if that's all that's stopping you from volunteering yourself. This is great. We're putting so many slots.
Nick Taylor, Nash County, District 1.
Thank you, Dick.
Hold on, I'm coming. Give me.
Stephen Sumner, District 3.
Thank you, Stephen.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Just leave it. It's gonna think it's a list. All right, you good? Yes, Sean.
Seeing no one else step up, Sean Ha, I'll be glad to serve for District 4.
Thank you, Sean. Anybody else? We have two more at large one more at large and two at large alternates.
Andrew Johnson, District 11.
Thank you.
Eric Parker, District 6.
Thank you, Eric. Anybody else? Sarah.
Kate Shawhan, at large.
I'll nominate Daniel Johnson for District 7.
Excellent. Kate, did you nominate yourself for at large? All right, thank you. Just making sure we're keeping on track here. All right, so do we have one for two?
Lisa C.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know. Just go back to your just go back to your listy. We are looking for someone from District 2, or are we at 9 maybe? Not everyone knows the map. If you are, yeah. This one, D. Alrighty, these are the district lines to be used from 2025. And all right, there we go. Are there questions there?
We have we do have one, a six district, right?
Yes, Eric Parker.
Okay.
Hey, can you go back to the list for a second? So we're missing one from District 2, and then can you scroll down? And we're missing one from District 9. District 9, District 2, and then 2 at-large positions. Yeah, can we get a microphone somewhere? Or can you come forward?
I'm not
that familiar with the role. What level of a commitment is it? Travel or how much time?
If the Libertarian Party candidate for president wins North Carolina and carries it, you get to go vote for who the president is.
Got it. Okay.
So if you think that's likely, then there's
Otherwise, there's no.
a
got-
big commitment if you think it's
okay,
likely.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough. You could put me for 9, then I'm in 9.
All right.
Myself for
Yeah.
Region 9.
Thank you. D. Mike Davis for 9. Yes, Brad.
Well, if no one else will do it, I will volunteer myself for 2.
We love your enthusiasm, Brad. All right, we have 2 at-large alternates.
I love everybody's enthusiasm. I was like the subject matter expert committee chair on this, and we had like 2 or 3 out of convention, and you know, I had to like put together people to. I was making voter lists of people who had their phone numbers on record with the Board of Elections. I was cold calling a dozen, 20, 40, 50, 80 people a day, and we came like within a week of missing the deadline entirely. And I got 2 or 3 of those cold contacts to say yes. So I'm just delighted and relieved that we're getting almost maybe all this done today. Step up, do it.
I still think we should make a motion if the executive committee replace anybody if
Okay.
there's an issue.
I'm going to recognize Daniel real quick.
Yeah, go ahead and plan on. Go ahead and plan on replacing me because I was going off the old map, so I'm no longer in District 8 apparently.
Okay. So Daniel is taking his name off for consideration for 8. We have 2 at large and number 8. We can move to accept these, and then we can go right into the next motion and direct the executive committee to fill the rest if we'd like.
Eric Parker, Guilford County. I'd like to resign from District 6 and nominate Daniel Cavender for District 6.
Thank you.
Are there any Union County delegates here?
Are there any Union County delegates here?
We'll ask them later. We can...
Yes, Brad.
A point of information, if anyone needs it, the link to the North Carolina State Board of Election voter lookup site is on Mattermost in the town square.
Thank you, Brad. Yes, Sean, do you have something?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Parker to be the first alternate.
You go with that, Eric? He's cool with that. Thank you. All right, D. Who are we missing? Just 1 district or 2? Just 8. All right. So we're missing number 8. We can contact people from Union County and try to get someone in there. Yep, we'll be good. And then, so I would entertain a motion to elect all of these by acclamation. All right. Does anyone object to this list of alternates? Or, excuse me, presidential electors? If no one objects, I'll let you add their name after the motion was made. Thank you. Brandy. I don't know, but
What's her last name?
we will not hold her lack of last name against her. Kurtzfield?
Kurtzfeld with a K?
Kruitzfield.
Yes, as he spelled it. Okay. Yes. Alrighty. Okay. All right. At this point, Brad made the motion to adopt this list by acclamation. It was seconded. Is there any objection to electing the list as we have them to be our presidential electors, pending any changes? Excellent. Then those people are elected. And since we are still missing one alternate and we can still have some changes, I will entertain a motion to have the body empower the executive committee to fill out this list as needed up until. Second. Any objection? Excellent. We will fill out any spots as needed. Okay, that is all the elections that we are doing today. Thank you all for working with us. I know it was kind of difficult, but we got through it. We are now actually on schedule, and we are to the other business section of convention. The only planned other business we had was the NOTA report and proposed bylaws changes. So, is there any other real business that we need to do here? And if so, does anyone have a motion or would like to bring anything up? Going once. Going twice. Last call for other business. Yes, Mike, can we get to your microphone?
This one works better.
I was just going to ask, I saw there were different caucuses. I don't know a lot about them. I saw a few brochures on the table and some out there. I mean, it might be helpful to know a little bit more about those if there was an opportunity just to hear, the different opinions on those and so forth. So I didn't know
Sure.
if that was a good venue or a good time to do that, but
It's probably not the best, but there are tables out there for a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
And if you look around, there's probably people with buttons for those caucuses and
Fair
everything
enough.
else. And
All right.
go ask them.
Very good.
All righty. Are there any other?
You're not done. There's still people in the hallway.
Yeah, see, he's done. All right. And last call for real business. If I don't hear that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn sine die. Made an hour ahead of schedule. Moved by, there you go. All right, any objection? Excellent. We are adjourned we're adjourned for all of our official business. At 4 o'clock, we have our governor's debate. That's going to be right here. We're going to set it up on stage. That's going to be Mike Ross and Shannon Bray, hosted by Barbara Howe. And then at 6:30 tonight, in that room over there, we have our gala banquet, where we'll have our banquet speakers. Michael Gibson is going to be speaking. And then afterwards, we will have our auction and after party. Even if you did not buy a gala ticket, but if you would like to come by for the fundraiser, you are welcome to. Everyone is welcome as well for the governor's debate. And the silent auction that we have will still be open, and then that'll be closing this evening. Other than that, I'm done announcements, and on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, actually, we'll be back in here for presidential debate. Thank you all.